figured out exactly how big an idiot McBride is.
Two boomers figure out Discord. That was more entertaining than the show.
Yeah, seriously. If only people could have sat there and watched us talking through in silence. Let's just watch that.
Alright, let me send out some news in Discord. Yeah, I thought you were on the app. I didn't know you were on the browser.
Yeah, I'm that's how boomer and old I am. I don't even have most of the apps. I just use the browser versions of everything.
Yeah.
Obviously caused myself a stupid headache there. Let's see. Getting new lineups in while we're struggling with that.
Oh man, chat's already roasting you, dog.
No, that's it.
Sometimes I mute my browser for like when I'm lurking on people's streams to give them a view.
Honestly, that's 100% just so I don't get Discord notifications like all through the day.
So Discord actually has settings where you can just turn off noties.
Yeah, which is probably the smarter way to handle that. Yeah, I'm no genius when it comes to this. I don't even remember doing that, honestly. I must have done it so long ago that it's just stayed on that Discord tab for forever, because it's not something I typically do. That's why I didn't even think of it. I'm glad you thought of it. Let's line up. There we go.
Send it open up PrizePicks.
That is me, lazy mofos. What's going on? I just don't get this newfangled internet stuff. Don't worry, Steven. The AIs will come around and teach you how to use it. We're going to be running shit in the next couple of years anyway.
AI scary.
Dude,
it is scary.
It's amazing. Like every single day I sign on and there's just some new crazy thing that's like, hey, check out what this person created with using these AI generators. And it's like, well, yesterday I was looking at a bunch of the new Photoshop that has the generative fill-ins. You can just take any image and then it create a completely imaginary background. It's just amazing shit. And this is like the basic. This is like the 28.8 dial-up modem version of these. What these things are gonna be.
The cavemen taking selfies and stuff. Yeah, I've seen that.
Seriously.
Have you heard like the AI like voices, like songs made by artists that weren't made by the artist?
That's wild. I was reading a thing about that, about like there was like a Drake song. Somebody put together a Drake and somebody else song.
There was a couple of them, and there was a Drake and Weeknd song, and it was a banger. I was listening to it. I was like, wow, this is pretty good. I'm going to put this in a rotation. Anyway.
Yeah, I was reading somebody put that one out, and then another guy did one that was he finished some like long lost Beach Boys album that was supposed to be like this great thing that they never finished, and he went in and used AI to like replicate Brian Wilson's voice and finish some old Beach Boys album. So people are saying like, well, does that count now as a Beach Boys album? Like it brings up all these crazy issues that you would never think. Stephen Leibowitz says Kurt Cobain singing a whole song was scary. Didn't hear that one. That's interesting though.
That's crazy. What's up, guys? Happy Friday. Big slate tonight. Shout out to Travis could be Travis. There's two of them. One could be Travis. It may not be. What up, Steve? What up, Edwin? What up, Dang Lazy Mofo? Larry in the chat. Phil. Ducking. M the Great. Who am I missing? Anybody missing? I think we're good. What up, Jake? Hope you guys are doing all right. Yeah, we are a little bit late, but we're here. Better late than never.
Raise your hand if you're a moron.
Troubleshooting Discord with Terry. See, Discord's been like my lifeblood for like 5 years now. So like, I don't know. I was like, I knew it wasn't me the whole time, but I was like, well, Terry's smart. Let me just double check everything.
You were extremely diplomatic about it the whole time. You didn't get frustrated. You were nice to me. You were like, well, what about this? What about this? You were really like, you fucking idiot. Come on, you're ruining the whole thing.
You ever have to call like customer support and they're like, is it plugged in? You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, I'll kill you. Do you think I'm dumb?
It's turned on, right, sir? My standard move is always like, please just don't read the responses out of the book. I've tried everything. The first 3 steps in the book says, let's skip down a couple tabs and then we'll go from there. And it's like, okay, well, sir, first I need you to make sure that the device is powered on. Is it powered on?
Anyway, what's up, chat? I've been dealing with a cough lately, but hopefully I'll mute every time. We are brought to you by RunDFS.com. If you guys are new to the channel, which I doubt you are, or if you are a regular and you are like, whoa, there's somebody else on the screen, that's Terry. You may have seen us on a ton of stochastic shows. We're still lurking there, but you know, we're on the bench, right? We're in AAA, waiting for the call up, I guess. So in the meantime, we're still out here playing baseball, getting our swings in. And Terry has recently launched a website where he's got ridiculous content for free $99. And I don't know. I don't think anywhere else on the planet Earth is giving this type of breakdowns for baseball for that price. So if you guys have not seen it, I'm gonna put a link to today's article. The articles are crazy, man. I don't know how. Kudos to anyone that writes articles for DFS. When I first got into the content creation, I was writing daily articles for the premium subscribers, and that was so exhausting. And then it's just like so disappointing that the shelf life is so short. And I was like, man, I gotta do something else. So I just started the live content is how I started serving it. But man, you be writing books on every slate. So the fact that this is free,
way overboard with some of this.
I mean, this is a great process. So, rotoscouts.com. I'll put a link in chat. You guys should check that out, and then you should also check out the YouTube channel, which the other day we pushed it to 60 subs. So now the next goal is 100 subs, and then so on and so forth.
Definitely, yeah. I appreciate the hell out of that, bud. You just bringing people over the other day, and obviously bringing me on the show today and doing a little promo here and everything. That's giant help to me. But yeah, like you're saying, everything right now is free. Eventually, one day we'll figure out a way to monetize it. But we're just doing this for free and kind of for the love of it and to help people out. And like you said, since we're not able to do content over on Stochastic right now, despite we're still part of the team, still on the bench over there, like you said, I just want to get this stuff out to the people. So check it out, gang. Rotoscouts.com, totally free. Got home run picks up there every day for my power index for the team by team, individual home run picks for each team, plus an overall, and then the big breakdown. And then I also go live on YouTube to talk it all through after I write it all up. So doing a lot.
Yeah. After our little Discord episode, I'm actually impressed that the website looks as good. Just kidding. Anyway,
no, that's it surprises me too. I mean, it's a minimal amount of work that I've put into it, and I do need to clean up a bunch of different things on there. But the fact that it's even functional, kind of surprises me. I basically built it overnight last summer, kind of out of spite. When I first separated a little bit from Stochastic, I said, oh yeah, well, I've owned this website for years and years. I registered this thing when I was looking. My Twitter handle for this site says registered in 2011, which is actually 3 years before my @digitalb21 handle. So I've had this website forever. I've just never done anything with it till now. So soft launching it. It's out there. Enjoy. Hopefully people are winning with it.
I also have like 20 domains I own that I never I probably use 3 of them. And it's just like I have that entrepreneur mindset where I think of something, I buy it, and I never do anything with it. Sometimes I do, sometimes
100% the same.
Yeah. Anyway,
I still own, I think to this day, like Roto Insurance, because I had the idea one night, like, what if you could insure your season-long fantasy picks for like a certain amount of money, and that's probably a good way. And like, I had this whole scheme, so I registered a bunch of sites. I've got all sorts of different sites registered. It's same exact thing. Like, I think of some bullshit when I'm stoned, and then go through it.
and then the other website, which is not free, unfortunately, rundfs.com. If you guys want to get access to the spreadsheet, I'll be screen sharing throughout the duration of this stream. And go to rundfs.com, click VIP memberships. Every membership we have comes with a voucher to Fantasy Cruncher. So if you guys are looking to maintain a portfolio of lineups, Cruncher's the optimizer I use. So when you jump into Discord, you'll be like, yo, Gun, I got Cruncher with the pass. What do I do? And we'll be in Discord, and I'll be able to walk you through it. And then usually the hour or two preceding the main slate lock, I'm in the pre-lock voice chat in the rundfs.com VIP Discord. You guys can hop in there. It's usually way more informal for baseball since it's so lackadaisical. The other day we had like all but one lineup on the big main slate by lock, so all the decisions were made. So it's like hanging out, but if you have process questions, anything like that. But we have a ton of baseball to get through tonight, and we got a late start, so we're going to jump into it, go game by game here, and see if we can't make a player pool. Terry, I do a laid back, man, so it doesn't have to be super formal. I usually go game by game, just kind of. I think we have a similar process where we focus, or at least I focus on the pitchers, and when you realize a pitcher's good or bad, it kind of sets your table when it comes to what bats you're interested in. Before we do that, I want to bring up the RG weather report and see if there's anything to worry about. In a big slate like this, it'd be a blessing if we didn't, but it looks like we're not blessed.
I think the Boston game's the ugly one, right?
Yeah, so according to Kevin Roth, I'll put a link to this in chat as well. There's a couple games to at least keep an eye on, but yes, Boston looks like the biggest issue. Toronto at the Mets and Citi Field, some scattered showers and chance for delay. Rays at Red Sox, still looking relatively fast, moving scattered showers and storms, but the coverage here is much higher than New York, a fairly good chance of delay or two. It's not out of the question that they waved the white flag early and don't attempt to play. If it wasn't Glass now, normally I'm not pitching in Fenway anyway, but I guess that might be a check mark in the I don't need to do it. Cleveland at Minnesota, spotty showers, moving showers, can't rule out a delay. And then at Kansas City, slightly higher storm shower coverage here than Minnesota, but still think it's yellow for chance of delay. Most of those games, I'm not sure that I was that interested in pitching other than maybe a Glass now. I haven't looked at Cleveland and Minnesota yet. And then Baltimore at San Francisco, winds blowing out at 15 mile an hour in a park that minimizes wind impact. So no news is good news for that. And then we also have a World Series preview tonight, which I'm excited about. The Yankees and the Dodgers. It looks like that's going to be good baseball weather. But the first game on the docket for going sequentially, the Phillies at the Nationals. Got Zach Wheeler on the bump for the Phillies to be on up against Josiah Gray. Wheeler is rocking a 3.33 expected ERA, 27.7% K percentage, 13.4% swinging strike rate, and a 16% call strike rate. Wheeler's been good. The only blemish here so far in this young season has been maybe that 4.26 xFIP against lefties. But this Nationals lineup is going to throw out a bunch of lefties, and typically not a big strikeout team anyway. A sub 20% K rate overall as a team. In today's lineup, I've got Lane Thomas, Jamer Candelario, Joey Meneses, and Alex Collins, guys that strike out over 20% since the beginning of last year against righties. So it is one of those, this team sucks, they don't strike out, but Zach Wheeler is one of the best options on the slate in terms of individual talent. How do you approach pitching against the Nats? Because it's been a frustrating spot all year.
Yeah, I'm good with going to, especially when it's a pitcher of like Wheeler's talent, right? I believe in Zach Wheeler, and one thing that you didn't mention that I do really like about Wheeler to throw on top of the pile of all that good stuff that you did mention about him is his ability to check power. 4.5% barrel rate allowed this year, a 1.46% home run rate, 85.9 miles an hour average exit velo. Last year, 85.7 miles an hour, 84.6 the year before. Similar barrel numbers. He's just very good at keeping the ball in the yard and just kind of checking overall power. power. So that's just another ding against the Nationals lineup here, another check mark in his favor. I think he's super interesting at 9-2 on the DK slate. 10-9 on the Fanduel slate. He's one of my top projected pitchers. I'll definitely get there, but it's a deep slate. So at the price on Fanduel where he's just kind of, slots in right next to like Logan Webb, Framber Valdez, Shohei Ohtani, some of these other guys, he's part of the machinery of like what I want to do. He'll be a big part of the pool, but I think he's really, really got appeal at that 9,200 on the DK slate. That's a nice discount from like Ohtani's 10-7, Valdez's 10-1. So I think there's good room there, and I definitely would go to them. Like I think enough of him that he'll overcome any upside for this Nationals lineup. And if you look at it, there's really only two players above average in the overall in that Nationals lineup who in any kind of sample are creating runs above average. There's really nobody who hits for a ton of power. You've got 8 home runs to lead the team from Lane Thomas. Then you've got Candelario and Kiebert at 7 each. There are a couple of semi-interesting bats. Like I think Thomas is an okay hitter. I think Joey Meneses is an okay hitter, though he hasn't hit for a ton of power this year. And then I think Kiebert is actually a super interesting catcher, but not necessarily in this matchup where there's a cap on power. If you look at Kiebert's, a couple things about him. 7 home runs on the season is good in 197 plate appearances for a young catcher anyway. But I think he's got more coming than that. He's got a better expected slugging percentage by it's in the 500s compared to a 395 current slugging percentage, and he's got a 10.4% barrel rate and only strikes out 7.6% of the time. So I think he's an interesting catcher to keep in people's pocket for for future appearances. But I don't really need to go to Nationals here, and I think I will go to some Zach Wheeler shares.
Yeah, so Wheeler right now is coming in at 18% owned, and I figure on a slate like this big, ownership's not going to become that big of a deal. It's not one of those Coors Field slates that is grabbing 30% ownership, and the same with pitchers. Sometimes you find pitchers pushing 40%. Right now, the highest owned pitchers are sharing a 26% ownership, and Wheeler's coming at 18. So he's 4th on the board in total ownership, but that's still I think that's fair. I think you would probably say over 20% of the time, considering some of the issues already. He's got a shot at being a top 2 scorer. So I think the ownership is fine. But yeah, I'll be wrestling some reservations. So what I do when I build out my player pool, particularly for pitchers, I have 3 tiers: tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. I think that's self-explanatory, but tier 1s are guys that I'm willing to be 30+% on. Tier 2s less than, and tier 3s are like 15 or less percent. Where would you put Wheeler? I'd probably start at tier 2. I don't know that I'll have a tier 1 tonight, but me personally, I think I'm going to start him off with a tier 2 nomination. And I'll be wrestling with the Nats scrappiness, but I'm not worried. I'm never worried about power with the Nats. I'm just worried about their ability to not strike out. But in the same sense, if they don't strike out, we might get a big Fanduel game that goes 7-8 innings for Wheeler. So I'm gonna go tier 2. How confident are you in terms of your pitcher ownership?
I think that's appropriate if we're talking DK. On price. And on the idea that, maybe he's just such a big slate, you can do whatever you want when it comes to ownership, because we can spread out with bats, we can differentiate lineups and not worry about duplication and get ahead on the field in different spots. So I think taking that off the board, I do think probably the upper part of a tier 2 would make sense if we're ranking it that way, especially if you're not sure if we're going to to label anybody as a tier 1, then yeah, definitely he would fall into that tier 2. For me, for Fanduel, especially on the idea of what you just mentioned, the idea of innings pitched, the idea of chasing that quality start bonus for me, giving me 7-8 innings, maybe finding a few bonus strikeouts for just pitching so much. I really like Wheeler there, so I would maybe push him up into like a tier 1 Fanduel play.
Yeah, Wheeler's last 4 games, pitches thrown 106, 108, 101, 107. So he's got some bullets in the chamber, and he's giving you 6+ in those starts as well. And there's some big boy matchups. The Braves, the Blue Jays in there, although Blue Jays starting to lose a little cred to me lately. But anyway, inversely, Josiah Gray on the bump for the Nationals. He has been a subject of high whip, a 1.41 whip, 4.18 on the expected ERA, 5.12 on the Sierra. We get this, a 2.77 actual ERA. Luck's been on his side a little bit, sub 20% K rate and 6.6% barrel rate this season. Historically, we've seen him struggle with the long ball. Now, that hasn't been the case this season, although the other issues are still there for him. A 17% walk rate to lefties. The ground ball, fly ball rate is still pretty, forward leaning for home run. I don't know how to phrase that. 47% fly ball rate. He's keeping the hard contact low. But everything else is not great for him. The xFIP is still pretty high for him, so I don't think that I'll be getting there on him today. So inversely, I gotta consider some Phillies. The Phillies lineup has not been consistent lately in terms of who they put out, but assuming this is your all-star Friday night lineup, Bryce Harper back in Washington, Trey Turner's been kind of hit or miss lately, and Kyle Schwarber, man, what happened to Kyle Schwarber this season? It's a rough go of it. There's still a lot of star power in this lineup, and if old Josiah Gray shows up and our metrics are telling us he's overdue for regression, could this be a spot we get to some Phillies bets? Do you have any interest in a full stack or a sub stack?
Yeah, I definitely do. They're actually one of my leading teams in the power index today. There's some remnants there from Gray's, previous last year 5.86% home run rate in 148 and 2/3 innings, 6.19% the year before in 70 and 2/3 over 13 starts. Like you said, he's definitely cleaned that up this year so far. He's cut his average launch angle from a 19.7 degrees last year down to 11.5. Barrels are down from 10.7 to 6.6. So he's not letting hitters elevate the ball as frequently, like you were talking about with the ground ball to the fly ball to home run ratio. And the ground balls have gone up by like 10 percentage points. I think it was like 33% ground balls to like 43% year over year. So he is inducing more ground balls. He's not throwing that fat, meaty fastball quite as much. But I think the book is going to catch up on him, right? We saw a little bit when he changed the pitch mix. We saw a little bit of quality emerge. And I think he is a semi-talented pitcher overall in terms of an ability to find some strikeouts. He was 24, 25% strikeouts the last 2 years. So I think there's a little bit of upside for strikeouts, but I definitely don't think like he's completely figured this out to the point where I don't want to attack him with bats when they're showing, some great projections for me, significant power upside, and you're getting the entire Phillies lineup, particularly on Fanduel. You're getting everybody really cheap. On DK, Harper's at 6,000. Everybody else Turner's at 53. Everybody else is in the 4s or below. But on Fanduel, you get Harper 36. Everybody else 3,000, 3,100 or below. Definitely discounts throughout the Phillies lineup there. So I'm looking at the obvious names like Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Nicky Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber. But then I like the odds and ends pieces from this team. I think Stott is an effective enough leadoff hitter. He needs to get on base a little bit more, but the hit tool is good. He can get himself involved. And then you get pieces like Brandon Marsh from late in the lineup. Dude's been having a productive year at the plate, 29% better than average at 200 ISO, 5 home runs, doesn't hit the ball over the wall consistently, but he hits it really hard, 50% hard hit rate for the season. Just a good hitter to find for 2,800 on both sides in the outfield late in the lineup. Cody Clemens, by the same token, decent power upside for him, 203 ISO in 81 plate appearances with 4 homers this year. So you get a little bit of mix and match quality throughout the lineup. Again, very cheap prices, nice home run upside. So I'll throw bats once again at Josiah Gray. It hasn't worked out for me a couple times lately, but I think it's worth targeting again. If somebody wanted to say, hey, I'm grabbing a couple shares of Josiah Gray, SP2, $6,900 value on the DK slate, is there enough there on the idea of maybe a handful of strikeouts and some innings? If he doesn't give up the long ball, there might be. 25.5% strikeout rate for that projected Phillies lineup for the season. There might be the idea of upside for strikeouts at the SP2 price on DK. I want no part of Josiah Gray at 8,700 on FanDuel, though.
Yeah, while we were talking, Phillies lineup confirmed. Kyle Schwarber leading off after a little dig at him. Trey Turner in the 5 spot.
Interesting bump to Schwarber then.
Yeah, maybe first pitch fastball or jump on it, and good luck. All right, moving on. Cardinals at the Pirates, 6 a.m. on the docket. Jack Flaherty taking on Roansy Contreras. Flaherty's rocking a 4.57 ERA on the season, a 1.53 whip. He has certainly had some issues throwing strikes, although we've also seen a little glimmer of hope, I think a game or two ago, against the Brewers. He dropped that 37 with 10 strikeouts, and on the grand scheme of the season, it feels like that was an anomaly. I know Jack Flaherty had that. He has a little pedigree from the last couple seasons where you want to believe in him, but I don't just yet. But we are rocking a spot where it's a pitcher-friendly PNC Park is against a Pirates team that is 5% less than average in WRC plus against righties. Not a ton of bats that truly scare me. Brian Reynolds, 15% barrel rate. Jack Swinsky, 17%, but he parlays that with a 30% K rate. And this entire projected lineup strikes out over 20% on average against righties. Is there any world where 6,800 Jack Flaherty makes the back end of like your player pool to fill out some errant SP2s, or does this feel like a stay away for both pitchers with Contreras on the other side as well with similar stats and less strikeout rate?
Tell you what, I think he is in play at that DraftKings price for some SP2 shares on the back end. It would be a low-ranked play, low-volume play for me. I don't know what his ownership's projected at, but you probably don't need to get that aggressive to be a little bit over the field, or at least with the field. And he projects like dead in the middle of my board overall. It's not great. I definitely have my doubts. You just mentioned, some of the ugliness throughout the season. He's sitting at a 4.63 xFIP. He's walked 13.5% of hitters, inducing a 10.8% swinging strike rate, which is, perfectly fine and in line with what he's done in the past. But a 23% strikeout rate, that's not the 26.4 that he put up 2 years ago before all these injuries and everything. So I question the upside. I question whether he's going to be in form of even being able to, limit premium contact. Like, he's given up an 8.3% barrel rate, but only 87 miles an hour average exit velo. I don't know what to put how those two stats, necessarily jibe together. 2.38% home run rate. Way too many guys on base via the walks and via some BABIP against with the 1.53 whip. So it's not pretty for Flaherty, but I do think there's enough of a track record. There's enough of an idea of talent. He certainly believes in himself. That 10 strikeout game came on the heels of a contentious press conference with the media where he was saying like, hey, screw you guys. I can get guys out at any velocity. It doesn't matter. And everybody laughed at him, and then he went out and had a really nice game. So, I mean, if he comes out in that kind of a form against a middling Pittsburgh lineup at best, I like the top 4 hitters in this lineup, and then it kind of dies on the vine. So I think he could have a decent enough game at that price. At 8,200, I don't know that we've got enough of a good shot at the quality start. It's such a deep slate that you definitely don't need to make the play. But if you were saying, hey, how can I get a little different with my cheap SP2 shares, and I don't really care if it goes pop across 150 lineups, if I do it 5 times, 6 times, whatever, I think Flaherty's on that list. So low rent option, but an SP2 definitely on the board here. Outside of the top 4 hitters, Marcano, Reynolds, McCutchen, and Sawinski, there's not a lot to love in that Pirates lineup. I've talked about Cabrian Hayes a bunch of times. I think he should be a better hitter than he is, but he's not. So I don't really worry about him. He's down hitting 7th in the confirmed lineup. G1 Bay, Josh Palacios, Austin Hedges. It's a weak back end. Carlos Santana even has not done much this season. So outside of the first 4 hitters, I think there's enough upside here for Flaherty to be able to use him.
Yeah, both lineups confirmed. I think they were both as projected. We do get the return of Jordan Walker after being sent down, I guess, to fix some stuff. He's bare bones min price on Fanduel at 2K flat, 3,300 on DraftKings. Inversely, in this game, Roansy Contreras on the bump for the Pirates. I want to say Roansy was the guy who had a crazy game against St. Louis earlier this season. He had 16 fantasy points that game. I don't know why I was remembering differently, but he's had a couple crazy high DraftKings point games, and then he's come way back down to earth. In that St. Louis game, he had 6 strikeouts, 16 fantasy points, 6,200. There's a couple teams that I can't get off of that haven't been producing. The Cardinals are one, and then the Mariners. Those 2 teams every slate, my eyes light up looking at the roster, and it feels like way more often than not I'm just like kicking myself at the end of the night.
I feel like we've been building a lot of really similar lineups across DraftKings and FanDuel.
It's
the 2 key teams for me. Yeah,
it hurts.
Were the White Sox on that list for a little while earlier?
A little while. I think the White Sox saved me a little bit with the injuries between Makata and Eloy.
That made it easier to get away.
Yeah, the other day.
Back.
Yeah, exactly. The other day against the lefty, they come back, and I was like, well, I'm back in on the White Sox against lefties. And it actually kind of worked that night, but yeah.
Roansy, I think they might be on the board today. Yeah, I'm with you. And I kind of like the card spot here again, even with Nootbaar coming out of the lineup. That's why we get Jordan Walker back, because Nootbaar went on the IL. So you lose a good lefty out of the lineup, which kind of sucks here.
Yeah. Ronesy, just a 16% K rate on the season. Somehow, with a less than 37% ground ball rates at both sides, his home run per nine is really pristine. 0.6 against righties, and most of the Cardinals bats that I want to play today are righty. And then he has a 109 home run per nine to lefties. Feels like there's some definite room for lefty success. Just an 8% K rate to lefties this season. 1, 2, 3, 4 lefties in the lineup there. So that's where the issues will probably come. Almost a 6.3 xFIP here. So yeah, like I'm seeing some glimmers of hope in the Cardinal stack yet again. Why can't I quit you? And so I'll probably be invested in here. This is gonna be one of those spray and pray type of nights, especially when there's not like a ton of aggregate ownership. I guess I'll take a look at hitter ownership here and see.
And I think that's worth talking about, is just like general approach to a slate like this. Typically I like it when we've got either a lot of good pitching and like not a lot of great spots for bats, or a lot of great spots for bats and a bunch of clunky pitchers with only a few elite options on the board on a slate like this. Today, I think we've got a mixed bag of like a ton of good pitching options and a ton of good hitting options. So for me, I think this is one where I just have to spread out like as much as possible, grab a big mixed bag of everything, and just hope I'm landing on the right combinations, because there's no real like focus I need to have way over the field on this specific play. I don't have one of those today. There's just a lot that I like a fair amount. Is that the same for you?
Typically, I will say I just opened up hitter projections, and the Phillies are pretty high owned compared to the relative to the slate. Looking at the Cardinals specifically, though, Brendan Donovan leads the team in ownership at 10%. Everybody else under 10%, so I can get behind that.
That's a good spot then.
Phillies wise, though, we get most of the lineup over 10% owned. Bryce Harper 15%, Turner 13%, Schwarber 12%. That might go up once the
that's probably going up.
Yeah. So maybe the Phillies are we're going to start having to see the negatives in that spot to and I'm always okay with giving the field one team and taking the board if it comes to that. So it's not quite Coors-esque where everyone's 20%, but they are pretty high owned. The Phillies run total, by the way, was 5.3. The Cardinals 5.2. So essentially implied for the same at a discounted ownership. So I can get behind that.
And it's not like you're moving from a team that's loaded with stars and name brands and value to one that's not. They're equivalent, if not better, in the Cards lineup in terms of like player by player, name brand, all that stuff with the stars like Goldschmidt and Arenado. You mentioned lefties. I love the spot for Nolan Gorman here. Hitting thirds, 4,900, 3,700 at second base across sites. Lost that third base eligibility they had thrown him earlier in the week, but who cares? I mean, second base is a premium position that you want a killer bat like that. 13 home runs at 283 ISO for that dude from the left side. You can absolutely sign me up for some of that. I like Donovan at the top of their lineup, and then like Burleson's okay in terms of his talent level, but at 2,200 hitting six from the left side of the plate in this spot, that's another killer spot in that lineup. So I think this lineup plays, basically 1 through 9, depending on what you get out of Jordan Walker. But that's the other thing about the Cards, is that they run so deep and you can combine them in a bunch of different ways. It's just another thing that leads me to this team over and over again.
Yeah. Taking a look at the live chat here, man. Shout out to everybody hanging out. I am the Key, M the Great, Shane Smith, Cadelza, Doug L, Larry C, Shannon in the chat, a lot of regulars, Fanatic, Travis. Appreciate you guys joining us on a Friday afternoon. We have a lot of Travis. We have Travis Wyndham, Travis Duarte, could be Travis. Our Travis to not Travis ratio for a YouTube chat has got to be like the highest in all of the land. I don't know.
Very popular among the Travises. I'll have to tell my buddy Travis, who's in my the Dynasty League with me and EMAC.
The president. All right, so moving on to the next game here. Man, we talk a lot about baseball. We're on game 3. Oh, man. All right, so Mets lineup just came out. We're looking at Brandon Nimmo, Lindor, Jeff McNeil, Pete Alonso, Brett Beatty, Starling Marte, no Vogie, Mark Vientos, Mark Canna. I didn't know he was still in the league. And then Francisco Alvarez, I would say he might be the best 9-hole hitter in baseball, but Chris Morel exists, so they got quite the competition here. We got Chris Bassett taking on Justin Verlander. If you missed the top of the show, referring back to Kevin Ross' weather report, he does say to keep an eye on this Mets game. Some scattered showers. I know you're closer to feet on the ground. Not quite. You're probably not that close to Citi Field, but you're in the vicinity. So if you see some storms, let us know. But it's Verlander versus Bassett. Two premium names, if nothing else. The metrics this year, maybe not as premium as you might remember. 4.95 expected ERA on Chris Bassett, 4.68 Sierra, 20% K rate, almost a 10% barrel rate, and then Justin Verlander, 3.85 on the expected ERA, almost a 4.6 Sierra, a sub 19% K rate, and that's hard for the eyes to see, and an 8.6% barrel rate. We do give them the benefit of the park, and looking at the Blue Jays, they've got a 114 WRC plus against righties. Mets a 105 WRC plus against righties. Mets are throwing 4 lefties in the top 5, and the first righty is Pete Alonso. Chris Bassett has certainly struggled to get lefties out. 2.5 home run per nine, a 273 average allowed. These lefties, Brandon Nimmo, Lindor, those, and Jeff McNeil. McNeil looks like a really good spot to get on base here. The top of the lineup for the Mets feels really strong to me. And then Francisco Alvarez has been really doggone solid. The redeeming qualities in Bassett is that 51% ground ball rate to righties is still there. And I guess if it was me, I would probably stagger lefty-righty a little bit more, but I get it. You don't want Mark Vientos in the top of your lineup and Mark Canha the year 2023. So I'm kind of on the fence with what
Canha created all their 4 runs on like Wednesday or Thursday in a shitty game where I had way too many of everybody else in that lineup and no Mark on.
And then, so this is a tricky spot for pitching because, I don't know, I guess it ultimately becomes a 4-corner spot, but Verlander has not looked particularly Verlander-esque. It looks like Max Scherzer's coming around, but Verlander, 2 strikeouts in his last game. That's at Coors. Maybe we give him the benefit of doubt for that one. 5 strikeouts against Cleveland in 8 innings. 8 innings of positive. Cleveland known to not strike out a ton. 3 Ks against Tampa. 7 Ks against Cincy. So I can give him some excuses in some of these spots. I can always pluck away Coors. 8,600.
Getting with a discount.
Yeah, 8,600 is really doggone cheap. But then it's a really tough matchup. So is this a spot where we just end up getting to all 4 sides at the end of the day?
I think so. This is one of those spots that's difficult to describe when we're trying to like make specific recommendations, tell people where, maybe put some of their money. Because it's certainly, it could be all 4 corners. It could be just as easily none of this because the 2 pitchers could go out, have good games, not worry about the bats, but a couple runs get scored where the pitchers aren't going to be overly relevant too because of, some other production on a super deep slate. If I'm like looking at it in terms of which sides I prefer, I have to think that Justin Verlander at the discount is probably where I would put my money if I could only have one of these options and, price and everything was a factor. I believe too much in Justin Verlander's talent over time. We saw him come back last year, dominate after, the late career Cy Young, or just the late career Tommy John that led to a Cy Young. I just believe wholeheartedly in Justin Verlander's ability to figure it out. He's got to get through a tough Toronto lineup, but he's definitely got the talent to do it. And you mentioned, they're maybe not quite as good as they should be. We've got a struggling George Springer who's maybe starting to come around a little bit. Vladdy's got a great contact profile. Both his barrel rate and his hard hit rate are both up a couple of points over last year, but it hasn't really come through. Only 8 homers, a 168 ISO over 239 plate appearances for Vladdy. That's probably one of the more powerless stretches of his career. If you're taking a 239 plate appearance sample from anywhere, I would expect he's got a higher ISO in most other chunks of 239 plate appearances. So it's been a little bit down for Vladdy, but up and down, it's a very good lineup. I'm taking shares of the Blue Jays if I'm going to Verlander. I'll take some hedge stacks of the Blue Jays there. On the Bassett side, it's been weird. He had that really ugly first start where he gave up, what was it? It was 4 home runs. And like 9 or 10 earned runs, went a few games without giving up home runs. I wrote about it today. Let me read it here real quick. 4 home runs in the first one, 9 earned in just 3 1/3. Allowed a home run in his better second start, then went 3 without giving up any home runs. Allowed 1 in an ugly start. 3 good starts that included 2 7-inning starts and a complete game. And then the last 2 games, he allowed 3 home runs and then 2 home runs. So 5 home runs, 9 earned, struck out 9 over 10 2/3 or 10 1/3 in the last 2 starts. He's just been such a roller coaster that, like, the only thing I'm hoping for when I roster him is maybe the idea of depth and some clean innings, but I don't know that I'm getting that. 8,100, I think you can take a couple darts on the DK slate. I don't think I want to do it at 96 on FanDuel. That's uncomfortably high priced. He projects okay enough that you could get away with it, but on such a deep slate, I don't think I want to do it that much with the Bassett side. So for DK, I would use him a little bit in limited doses as a dart throw, but I don't really like it on the FanDuel side. And then if I'm rostering Mets batch, which I probably would do in at least small doses against Bassett here, everybody that you mentioned in the top 4 there, but I would also throw Brett Beatty into the mix. 3,200, 2,800 across sites at third base. Another lefty bat in the middle of that lineup. 4 home runs, a 149 ISO to start his career. Over 135 plate appearances from a premium prospect. I'll take that. Only striking out 22.2% of the time in his first handful of plate appearances. I'll take that. He's not an aggressive, like over-aggressive free swinger. So if you're looking for another guy to click into that stack, I would definitely include him. And I'm with you. I think Francisco Alvarez is a star. Kid's not going to give up that catching job for the next 10, 15 years in Queens.
Yeah, it's gonna be locked out. Gary Sanchez tried. But,
I'm glad Gary caught on out in San Diego. It seems like they want to give him a legit shot.
Yeah, he kind of blew the game yesterday, though. But
did he? I missed that.
A defensive blunder where he tried to back off the cutoff man, even though he's the catcher and there's a play at the plate. So the cutoff man would have made the relay in time if he was at the plate and he wasn't. It's Gary Sanchez, baby. You know what you're going to get.
We're paying him for his premium contact. We're not paying him to actually play catcher. What the hell are they doing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Stick him at DH. Jesus. It's not hard.
Gary's one of the ones that I was always rooting for, but I got it at the end. Like Hicksy, Gallo, I always root for them. There's not many that I didn't like, that I didn't root for. Chappie got on my nerves.
Gary was definitely a big one for me, and Gallo, I wish he was on our team this year. Gallo.
Don't get me started.
I say it aggressively. I say it loudly. I have no shame in my Gallo love.
All right, moving on to the Rays and Red Sox. Shout out to Sean V. Willie K. Should I buy some Francisco Alvarez rookie cards? I mean, I'm not in the card market. If you're wondering if they're going to be valuable later, he profiles as a super special guy. He was the top prospect for them. Him and Adley Rutschman are going to be catchers of the next decade to keep an eye on. So, like, if you're into that market, I would say yes, but I don't know anything about cards these days.
I would say if you've got a shot to get some of those, super rare numbered cards of his as a rookie, those would be a pretty nice little investment. Kid's, as long as he stays healthy, kid should have a nice long star caliber career behind the plate.
Terry referenced his article. I put a link to that in chat. You guys just showing up late. Terry putting up a ton of free content. Rotoscouts.com. Writes a book for every slate, and he gets it out there at a really decent time as well. I don't know how the freak he does it, but the fact that this is free is crazy. So it's one of those, we want to keep it a secret, but we don't. It's really good info.
Yeah, we want to keep it a secret for our purposes, but we also need those clicks. So go check it out, gang. Spread the word.
Exactly. Moving on to the next game, Red Sox hosting the Rays here. Let me tag this as orange in the spreadsheet, referencing back to what the weatherman said. He put this one as orange, and if you guys know his color coding, that means, all right, keep a strong eye on this. Says, still looking at relatively fast-moving scattered showers and storms. Coverage is here much higher than New York. Fairly good chance of delay or two. It's not out of the question that they wave the white flag early and don't attempt to play. So keep that in mind. Keep an eye on that as you get closer to lock. Garrett Whitlock, your projected starter for the Red Sox. Tyler Glasnow on the bump for the Rays. Glasnow came back, picked up where he left off in terms of getting strikeouts. Also picked up where he left off last year in terms of barrel rate, but he has a combined 11 innings since the beginning of last year. So kind of lean on what we know of Glasnow. He's an elite strikeout guy, and I don't worry too much about All the others without a decent enough sample size. With that said, the Red Sox 106 WRC plus, a lot of tough bats to get through, a tough park to pitch in, and there's weather. So maybe ultimately it's just going to be a wash for me anyway. But if this was a regular slate without weather, I would be interested in Tyler Glasnow. It was encouraging that he threw 83 pitches in his first start. Probably means he can push 90 plus in a weather neutral game here, and against a tough Dodgers team, racked up 8 strikeouts. Did allow 3 earnings as well on 5 hits, but the strikeout upside is there, and this is a $7,900 price tag that if Glasnow finishes the season at 10, 11K, no one's surprised. So I guess with weather being in the back of her mind, I'd probably be closer to out than in from where I'm at right now. But at 7,900, if we get a call later and the weather's looking like, all right, they got a chance to play through it, I think it's very hard pressed for me to expect not to have a little Glasnow exposure. And this is one of the first games. Like, I know we've been talking so long, but this is really still 7:10 p.m. And this is 5 minutes after the first game. So we can make some swaps.
An hour after the scheduled start time, we're a quarter of the way through the slate.
I knew it was gonna happen. Glasnow projected for 12% ownership right now, which if the slate was gonna play just fine, I'd be fine with that. So I guess weather in mind,
push this one up to lock as close as I can get to lock before trying to get a read on this weather. Because I really like that spot for Glasnow. I actually would play that spot fairly aggressively on the Fanduel slate at 92, where I was hoping that he would be a little bit under-owned, people questioning the innings, et cetera, et cetera. These teams are playing 4 games in 3 days over the weekend. The Rays need Glasnow to give them 6 innings at least tonight. So I don't think there's going to be a cap on his pitch count. If the weather stays clean, I think we get a regular full start, go as deep as you can out of Glasnow here, especially considering that we had the 80 pitches in the bag from the last start. I love this spot. I love the opportunity, especially if he's lower owned. If the weather's playable, but maybe keeps the ownership low, I think that's advantageous. So I'm really going to try and read the weather on this one. I'll be checking out the old traffic cams and all that stuff around Fenway Park, maybe make some calls up to the Boston area. But 7,900 is a major discount for this pitcher on the DK slate. Even if you have question marks about the weather, I think maybe that's worth a couple of darts if he's going to be dramatically under-owned. But if he does get the stop and start, that's going to be it for his day. I doubt that they give him a delay and then put him back in the game. So that's your major risk here. And then, like you said, the Red Sox, obviously, bunch of good bats in that lineup. But like the back end, Enrique Hernandez, Tristan Casas, who's got power for days and a good contact profile, but hasn't done much and strikes out at a 27.8% clip. Reese McGuire, Emmanuel Valdez. That's not a great back end. Top 4 is very good, obviously. Verdugo, Devers, Turner, Yoshida, but Glasnow I think can get through that lineup a couple times over if it's dry. So that spot definitely intrigues me. One to watch.
Yeah, it also when these weather games happen. You mentioned it's 4 games. These the new. I mean, they could make this game up in the next 2 days for sure. But this is also a division game. Red Sox, if they're gonna make a run, getting some wins over the first place team is gonna be something that they want to do. Cora, he might use the rain to his advantage if they could flush out Glasnow early on. The Red Sox ownership is almost nothing. 3% for your highest owned Red Sox bat for Rafi Devers. Everyone else is 2% to 0% and some scraps here. So maybe in the interest of crazy Friday night baseball, third inning delay flushes Glasnow out, and we're picking on a bullpen. Though the Red Sox, the Rays bullpen is still strong. They get strikeout less than you would expect, 19% less than average versus other bullpens, but still the Rays. But that type of ownership for that team in Fenway, if it gets into a sloppy rain game, I'm a little bit intrigued by. Right now, not as great of a ownership.
Seven left-handed hitters in that lineup today too.
Yeah, and if his
that's
barrel,
interesting. And if you think about, like, let's pull that thread a little further. Let's say they do play that game where, they force the game to play. They get Glasnow washed out after 3, and they go to the bullpen after a rain delay or something like that. It's unlikely that they're going to go to their premium arms out of the bullpen because A, they're tired, B, they're playing the 4 games in 3 days already, so they're not going to want to tax good bullpen arms. So they would probably punt the game at that point, and not fully punt the game, but they'd probably go to a lower end arm out of the pen at that point as well. I don't know top of my head who that would be name wise, but I think that's a targetable spot if they're that low owned. So I think that's a good reason to take a look at some Red Sox bats, weather permitting.
Yeah, it would feel like a long reliever spot. They have pretty much everyone available. I'm trying to see who would be I guess Jason Adam has the ability to throw 20 plus. Joe LaSorsa threw 32 pitches last Monday. So those are type of names that you might look out for. The premium guys you want to stay away from, I guess, Colin Pache. Former Red Sox great Jalen Beeks might be available to throw a couple pitches. But yeah, I'm not too scared for most.
That would actually make sense for them to do if they didn't go Pache route. If they went to Beeks, the lefty.
A lot of lefties in this lineup.
Lineup, right? And he's a long man, so that would make a lot of sense for it to be him come out of the pen if they needed to go that route.
Yeah. All right, and then like I said, Rays weren't as low owned. Looking at ownership projections, we are working with top guy Wander Franco 11%, and then a couple 6 to 8 percenters. So relative to the field, decent bit of ownership for a road team at Fenway. The Red Sox pitching has certainly been less than stellar. Garrett Whitlock on the season 4.57 expected ERA. He's one of those guys that historically good. Big K numbers in the past, 3.1 expected ERA last year on a 26% K rate. But this year, not so much, and their bullpen's also been hit or miss in some spots here. So I get it. Rays have been a really solid offense, 127 WRC+. plus. You take them out of Tropicana, you put them in Fenway, weather being what it is. I understand it, but there is a little bit of ownership there. 5.2 runs for the Rays, the implied run total, similar to the Cardinals and the Phillies. So decent justification to get there. Looking at the live chat.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Willie K. Terry's the best MLB content hands down. Yeah, Terry is a genius.
He retracted it, and then he said he thinks it's actually Rendon. So I don't know if I can take that compliment anymore.
I'm not in the loop. Like, I know who he is, and I know some of the stuff, but
it was a whole thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, oh, you know what? I can't. No, I'm a nice guy. There's some K's in the White Sox lineup. Yeah. Sox run. Okay, I'm not getting into all of that. Moving on. Rangers hosting the Mariners. Next game on the docket. Mariners, I don't have their lineup. I do have a Rangers lineup. So versus the expected, we got Semien, Seager, Nate Lowe, Adolis Garcia, Josh Young, Robbie Grossman is batting 6.
Sandy Leon, no Jonah Heim.
Travis Jankowski, Leone Tavares, and Sandy Leone. Yep. I expect
Jonah's the only downgrade there.
Yeah, Jonah's got some pop. 4.1 run total for the Rangers, 4.1 for the Mariners. They likely closed the roof out there in Arlington. I think we're expecting some rain today. So usually when they do that, it plays more pitcher favorable. And Luis Castillo really doesn't need a whole lot of help here. Rangers have been a really good team, though, 113 WRC plus to bringing back Corey Seager, and Adolis Garcia has been just incredible this season. So not a cupcake matchup by any stretch, but you can certainly project some strikeouts here. Just 3 guys in this in this confirmed lineup for the Rangers strike out less than 20% since the beginning of last year against righties. And then I mentioned Adolis Garcia has just been elite here. But I usually I always say bad hitting beats bad pitching, and then good pitchers can get behind good hitting. So I'll likely lean on the Castillo side. Luckily, Castillo didn't want no part of the Yankees in that stretch. Saved this stuff for the Rangers on the season. A 3.58 expected ERA, almost a 30% K rate. You look at the big slate here. Some weather concerns, some not. This guy doesn't have to worry about weather. Looking at pitcher ownership, I would imagine he's going to be one of the top 2. He is not. He's 18%. So right now he's actually less than Ohtani. Wow. He's right there with Zach Wheeler. So technically 4th on the slate, but he's basically holding hands with Wheeler, and then right below him, Michael Walker. So less than 20% projected ownership from this far out. Seems like a really good environment, if nothing else, even though there's some dangerous bats. So I like that as one of the guys that, if we had to pick a handful of guys to score the most fantasy points out of the pitcher spot, Castillo's certainly on my short list. And then inversely against him, John Gray, 4.72 expected ERA on the season, a 2.81 actual ERA. So getting lucky in terms of results, 11.4% swing and strike rate. That is pretty good, especially considering his K percentage is less than 20%. So you might project some progression for his strikeout rate to go up. But if you look at the last 3 years, his problem has been pretty clear. That's left-handed hitting, 4+ xFIP, almost a 5 xFIP in 2021 and so far this season. The Mariners are... Jared Kelenic would probably be the main left. I guess Cal Raleigh as well.
Cal Raleigh, yeah.
Couple guys in there that I do fear. We mentioned it earlier. This is a team that I just can't quit. They just got a fun roster: J-Rod, Kelenic, Suarez, Cal Raleigh, Teo. It's a fun lineup. But John Gray has
There's been a lot of run creation and some counting stats in that lineup, and I think it's fair to say that a lot of them have underperformed to this point in the season. So I think there's good reason to continue going to that Mariners stack, even though it hasn't been great for us so far this year.
Yeah, I'm basically at the slot machine at this point, so I'm not. I always say, if you're at the slot machine, keep pumping them quarters, because the minute you get up, walk away. Old Edith, she's gonna bring her walker, sit down, and put 1 quarter in. I'll stack the Mariners, and then jackpot. So yeah, I'll probably be there. So if I had to make a ranking of this game, Castillo's probably at the top for me. Then Mariners. I don't know that I'll get to John Gray from this far out. 7,600. You think so? Yeah.
Shares, 9,000's high on Fanduel, but I think even over there, I'll have a couple shares, because I believe that he's better than the 20% strikeout rate this year. 25.7 on a matching swinging strike rate last year. His CSW is down 2 percentage points. He's walked a few more hitters this year, so that's kind of where those strikeouts went, I think. But I believe in this pitcher, and there's enough strikeouts in that lineup that, and especially from some of their premium bats, like Teoscar 33.8%, Cal Raleigh 25.8%, Eugenio Suarez 28.4%, Kelenic 31.5%, Julio 27.5%. Their power core strikes out pretty aggressively. So I think there's a little bit of upside. I really like the $7,600 price on DK, though. I think that would warrant some shares.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That lane 3 through 8, if Mike Ford makes that lineup as well, aggregate of probably 28% K rate. So there's certainly a lane that he can get through. So yeah, I think you sell me on him, especially DraftKings for sure. That price, I think he can deliver.
And we're talking about a guy who over time has been good. Like, we all were waiting for years for him to not pitch in Coors Field every other start anymore, and was very good in 24 starts last year. 3.46 xFIP, a 3.96 ERA. Was okay with limiting power. The contact profile is not ugly. So I believe in the talent there. It would be a limited play. Like, he's not at the top of my board or anything. He projects like in the middle. Definitely way more interested in Luis Castillo, who I think at that kind of ownership numbers that you were reading off before, that's really interesting, especially at 94 on the DK slate. The idea that you can, and I know that Texas is leading the league in runs in runs per game and everything, but I believe in Luis Castillo. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball right now. 30% strikeouts, 5.9% walks, a 3.28 xFIP. There's every reason in the world to go there. He's giving up a little bit of premium contact, 9.9% barrels, 47.5% hard hits is extreme, with 90.8 miles an hour of average exit velo, but it hasn't really hurt him. It could ding him in this start, but if he's going to be low owned, I definitely want to push some chips on the Luis Castillo side. And on DK, with all these high priced and talented pitchers, if I can go a high-priced combination of Wheeler and Castillo and then use some of these value bats that we've got littering the slate across the board, I think that's really interesting. Both those guys at discounts, or just use extra shares of each of those guys as SP1s in combination with some of the value plays. I think there's a nice broad lane for success with those two pitchers here.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think I slight 4 quarter. I think Rangers I might end up getting to a substack if I get there. Focus on Seager and Adolis. Mariners, I just can't quit them. But yeah, I think we're in full agreement on this game. Getting caught up on chat here. The Fuzzy Bears getting up there in ownership. Is that a Pete Alonso, or is there another Fuzzy Bear I don't know about? Ohtani versus Valdez. Who wins DFS points? I probably lean Ohtani from this far out. Castillo struggled in road start. Okay, Sean V. Not today, Satan. Yeah, there's been a lot of home road stuff lately. In terms of like, I've actually seen people break down this guy against righties on the road. I'm like, you're not serious, are you? It's like that's such a bad process. Now, pitchers home roads, if you adjust it for parks, I could buy into some of it. If you look at Castillo's road starts, we got at Boston, so that's Fenway, tough park. At Toronto, Jesus. At Wrigley, did okay. So he has 3 road games on the season. 2 of them is Fenway and Rogers Center. So
and which way is the wind blowing at Wrigley that day?
Exactly. And against Wrigley, he gave up, I think, just two Ernies in Wrigley. Right. So his end result wasn't great. But that's one of those spots you really got to put some context to home road splits. Globe Life with the roof on is going to play towards the pitcher. So I wouldn't overthink that so far this season. Garcia's due for a big game.
It's definitely not something I worry too much about. I worry about the pitcher, who he is, things that he can control directly in his profile, especially a guy that I have so much of a profile built up over time with Luis Castillo, who's one of the top pitchers in baseball for the last few seasons. I have no real concerns about that. It's not something I would really track or worry about here.
Yeah, Jake says home road splits are definitely a thing. They're a thing like BVP is a thing. Like if you, ultimately, I think there's not.
It's an unquantifiable.
Exactly. The value that people perceive is not actually that. If you're looking at just generally road versus home, you're not putting context to the park. So if a person's road splits, let's say you play in the NL West and you get Coors and Chase with the roof open and then you go into like Fenway or whatever, your road numbers are probably gonna look a little bit better than your whatever. So I don't think people put enough park adjustment to that, and that's what WRC Plus is here for. That literally adjusts for park factors for us. So if you're gonna lean on some stats, lean on stuff that actually has quantifiable value and stuff that'll do the legwork for you. I think it's a little rough to get behind.
And that's it. Like you mentioned with BVP, like nobody's saying that there isn't the idea that hey, the pitch coming out of this guy's hand with a release point up here versus some guy down here, and the guy can't pick it up the same way, so he hits better against one and not the other. Sure, that's all probably real and viable and everything, but how do I factor that into a projection, right? And especially when you've got such a small sample with BVP or with pitchers pitching one time per year in a certain park. It's just not enough data to make any kind of adjustment by. You don't know what's noise and what's real. So it's not worth paying attention to.
Yeah. Solution Sports. Simply, Texans are a team that could have 7-run inning against any pitcher. I'm leaning towards that fantasy projection. Literally any team could do that. I would never lean towards a team scoring 7 in an inning against Luis Castillo, but I mean, hey, if you do you, boo-boo.
The Texans score 7 at a time all the time because they're scoring touchdowns because these are the Rangers, not the Texans.
Rangers might be scoring more than the Texans lately.
That's true.
Fading Castillo, but he could have a lucky night. No, it's okay.
It won't be luck. Let's put that accurately. You can fade him, and you're doing it against the highest scoring team in the game. There's plenty of reasons to come up with for fading him. I think we both agree that it's the wrong decision to do that. But if he goes out and has a big game, it's not because of luck. So just phrase that correctly. Come on.
All right. Moving on to the next game. Some of this stuff would get me sidetracked.
Supposed to be here making friends, not picking fights.
I'm not. Whenever people come at me, See, I'm a little softer when people throw some hot takes. As long as they're respectful, like I'll address the hot take and try to give my opinion, because I feel like every process has its day. Even bad processes, like BVP players, are gonna have nights where it works, or the results are what they were looking for. Half the time, the BVP truthers get a homer off the bullpen, and they act like it was their process that got them there.
Right.
Anyway, But yeah, as long as everyone's respectful, I don't care about you guys having hot takes, even if they're wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even when I'm answering back, like I might get passionate about something, but I love all these guys out here and everybody chiming in with their opinions, right, wrong, indifferent. It's all in good fun. So hopefully nobody gets offended out there.
Yeah. Okay. Astros hosting the Angels. Shohei Ohtani up against Framber Valdez. So a pretty polarizing matchup here. Angels just a 3.6 run total, 4.1 on the Astros. I'm not sure what happened yesterday. I don't know if they moved Valdez around to specifically to have this matchup or what. But initially, I had Valdez starting yesterday, and then he wasn't. So fun little pitching matchup. Two guys that can go. Ohtani a 2.87 expected ERA on the season, a sub-1 WHIP with a 35% K rate. And then on the other side, Valdez pushing a K rate to 27% while still maintaining a ridiculous ground ball rate, basically negative launch angle, and been unlucky with the average allowed and the home run per nine allowed. 2 home run per nine to lefties, a 3.13 average allowed to lefties. That's not going to hold up, and the Angels' only lefty is a guy you can't roster anyway. So here's a fun one. What do we do with this one? Ohtani and Valdez. We look at pitching ownership. Ohtani's going to carry the third highest ownership at 18%. So he's right there holding hands with Castillo and Wheeler. Valdez is pushing 26. Him and Kershaw, pair of southpaws, projected to be the highest owned pitchers on this slate. Can you just, I don't know, whenever you can't roster Ohtani offensively, I kind of don't get to that stack too much. I mean, you could always play Trout, but where do we do with Valdez and Ohtani? Are we bullish over the field, at the field, or do we believe in the spots for him? Ohtani against the Astros, this confirmed lineup, bottom 3 look like free strikeouts. McCormick, Jolks, and Martin Maldonado aggregate 30%. Yeah, and then the top 6 guys are scrappy. So where's your comfort level for Ohtani?
I think we want to be, at field. You can argue for an undercut on either side. I would probably, if I'm doing that, it would probably be one or the other to undercut. I like both of these pitchers pretty much equally. They project right next to each other on my board up near the top of the board here. I think that the matchup, it's probably even up matchups on both sides because it's not like Ohtani's not in the lineup. He's just not in the lineup for us. So Framber's still got to get through him. So it's a little bit of a challenging matchup on both sides, but I really believe in both these pitchers. Obviously, Ohtani, 35% strikeout rate on the year. You don't worry about a couple hiccups that he had a couple games ago, 2.91 ERA, a 3.31 xFIP over the course of the season. Good at limiting hard hits, good at limiting barrel rate. Framber, like you said, is actually up to a 0.8 on the positive side launch angle. That's up from negative 3.6 last year, negative 5.5 degrees the year before. I love going to Framber because he just chews up hitters in terms of their ability to hit home runs against him. He basically, anytime a team's going up against Framber in my model, in the home run model, it just cuts the numbers in half, if not more. And I'm seeing that through the power index today, like Mike Trout sitting at half the magic number in my home run model. That's not usually where he's going to land. So definitely a compelling spot for Framber. I like that the strikeouts are up this year. I think he's a really interesting buy at 10-1 on the DK slate, 11-2 on the Fanduel slate. I'm hoping the price keeps ownership away a little bit on a deep slate in a tough matchup. I'll definitely look to get over the field, I think, on the Fanduel slate if he's under-owned because of that price. It'll all come down to where they're owned for me. But both sides for me on the pitching. And then I think there's a good argument that both teams are kind of wiped out in terms of going to them in stacks. You mentioned all the strikeouts and the weak bottom end for the Astros. I think Ohtani can, if he gets through that top end a couple times, that's not going to be a bottom end that's going to be really, high odds to turn the lineup over. You've got Jose Abreu in the 6th spot there. He's just been a free square all season for pitchers, sitting at 213, 275, 266 with a .053 ISO, a 51 WRC plus, has just been bad all season long. So really, you're talking about a 5-man lineup for the Astros. It's a very good 5-man lineup, but Ohtani's very good too. So I'm more comfortable going to pitching on both sides here. It would be very limited shares, if any shares, of the bats on either side of this. A couple semi-interesting multi-position guys on the Angels lineup for cheap, but nobody I really want to go to against a guy who I think is just going to completely cut power and keep the ball on the ground while finding strikeouts here. So not really for me on the hitter side, and I'm definitely interested in both pitchers.
Yeah, right now the highest bet in this game, Altuve at 2%. and
Wow.
Alvarez 1.8%. Your average ownership for a player in this game is 0.7%. So yeah, I think the field agrees. Those type of numbers kind of make me, Friday night.
Right. That's where you start saying, Jordan. They string together a couple hits in front of Jordan. He hits one out. Maybe that gets interesting, but
Yeah,
that's dicey.
it is. All right, so I'm going to throw both pitchers in the tier 2. Angels 120 WRC plus against lefty this season. A lot of green in the index portal of the RunDFS.com MLB VIP spreadsheet, but like we said, Valdez just has such a knack for putting the ball on the ground, and the same for me. The bomb detector, highest bomb rating I got, ironically, is Chad Wallach, but that's likely inflated through the small sample size, and then 3.6 on Brandon Drury, 3.6 on Mike Trout. And usually the number I'm looking for is 4. So, yeah, not a lot of high upside to project. And usually on a Friday night slate, we're looking for that team that's going to score a touchdown or two, 4 or 5 home runs with, 26 teams available. So, doesn't look like it pre-flop, but that type of ownership, you might catch me with like 1-2% Angels to Astros just for.
Knowing that they're that low, it's definitely a situation where, like, if I saw a couple lineups trickling through in my my sorting process, I wouldn't be like, oh shit, they're facing a really good pitcher, I got to get them out of there. It would be like, all right, that's a little bit interesting, maybe sneaky. Maybe you grab the Alvarez and Tucker home runs, and the rest of the lineup produces a little bit. I think I would if I'm ranking it, since we've got no Ohtani for DFS, I've got to have the Astros on top of the Angels, right?
Yeah, it's just easier to get to. It's always the case for me. I don't know how that's still a thing, but it is.
I mentioned that in my article. Like, how have they not figured that out over all this time? Just make it so that you can't use them at both. You can just use them in one or the other. Like, it shouldn't be this difficult to do. Make them Shohei Ohtani A and Shohei Ohtani B if you have to just put 2 different players in the pool. Like this, it's not that difficult. I'm sure there's a way to figure this out.
Many other sites that are not as bankrolled have. I played on a site called Owner's Box, and of course I signed up using code Gundecker, of course.
Of course.
And they have pitcher and hitter Ohtani, so I don't get why it's that hard. And we've even seen some season longs, and so yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I would agree. Astros would be just a deeper lineup without a bat like Ohtani. But man, this entire projected Angels lineup for me, WRC plus since the beginning of last year against lefties, all well above 100. So I mean, at 0% ownership, I think I will sneak 2 or 3% in the bottom end. But yeah, like we said, ground ball rate kind of usurps a lot. But man, there's a lot of green, I'll get caught up on. I'll just move on to the Twins game here. So another game that we have to keep an eye on for weather. Spotty, slower moving showers from Roth earlier. Can't rule out a delay. I don't have lineups for either. We got Aaron Savali taking on Bailey Ober. Ober a 3.66 expected ERA. Savali 4.45 expected ERA. So Ober's swing and miss stuff, 12.2% swing and strike rate. I can get behind that. What scares me is ridiculously high fly ball rate. Parlayed with a high barrel rate. He has sustained essentially a 10+% barrel rate if you look at his last 3 seasons, and 10% plus this season as well. His ERA outperforming some of those advanced metrics like Sierra and expected ERA. Against the Guardians, this is just not a strikeout team anyway. Only 3 guys in the projected lineup, one of them being Mike Zunino, strikeout over 20% since the beginning of last year against righty. So hard to smell upside here at Ober. 8,400 is a little bit more puntable than the 10K Fanduel price point if we're just trying to sniff out complete and utter upside. Savali is usually just a guy, he's just not even an option for me with his inability to rack up Ks on a 26-team slate. Are you feeling that the same way as Ober? I feel like historically you've been an Ober guy. I don't know. I feel like we've done shows before. Maybe it's not you. I feel like I've done shows.
I was more interested. I was interested in him in some spots the last 2 years. I think he's a talented guy. I just think we've got enough to work with on this slate. He doesn't project that great for me, and it's largely just because of the Guardians' ability to avoid strikeouts. They're a non-threatening lineup. They've been second worst in the league against righties for run creation this season, I think, but they were 3rd or 4th best in terms of their strikeout rate. So I just think it's kind of a wash where I don't really need any of Ober. He's 10,000 on the FanDuel slate, so I have absolutely no interest in that price. If you wanted to try and buy a few shares at 84, I just wish it was a smaller slate or that he was a little bit cheaper. He's kind of in a no man's land right now where like he's not cheap enough to be a value. There's other good options at or around that price, or at a little bit higher price. There's much better options. So for me, it's a no-go for Ober, but that doesn't really lead me to any Guardians bats. They've just been dramatically underperforming. Everybody on that team is underperforming, including Jose Ramirez, who, 112 WRC plus is the only mark for run creation that's above average on the season, but he's only got 6 home runs, 5 stolen bases, a 184 ISO in 234 plate appearances. Kind of like what I said for Vlad. If you just grab 234 plate appearances from anywhere else in his career, it would probably look a little bit better. This is a superstar caliber player who's underperformed. Everybody else in the lineup below average for WRC plus, not hitting for power, not really even running that much because they're not getting on at great clips. It's just hasn't been pretty out in Cleveland this year. So no real interest in either pitcher. No real interest in Guardians. I think I'll grab some Twins bats, but it depends entirely on whether Correa and Buxton play. Excuse me, I expect Buxton and Kepler would be the question marks. Correa seemed like the least likely out of the 3 guys who came out of the game last night to play. He had a recurring issue with his ongoing foot drama. But Buxton got hit by a pitch, came out of the game, and then Kepler had a migraine and came out of the game. So depends on what we get in the lineup there. But I think there's some interesting parts in that. And there's 6 guys in the projected that have multi-position eligibility on DK for cheap prices. That makes the Twins kind of interesting here against Savali, who I agree, there's no real strikeout upside. Targetable enough pitcher, gives up enough premium contact that these home run hitters like a Joey Gallo, maybe a Kirilloff, you got Jorge Polanco back in the lineup there. I think they're interesting. Donovan Solano even at the dead minimum with first base and third base eligibility. If he's hitting 5th in that lineup, I think you can go to that price, if nothing else. So I think the Twins are somewhat interesting, but I want to see the confirmed lineup.
Yeah, projected lineup is taking out some of those big boys. So it could be a short list of or a who's who of who's that. And then, yeah, I'm in agreement with the Guardians. Guardians are basically, for me, another Nationals where I hate pitching against them, but, man, do they lack power generally. So might be just a one-off game. Like I said, keep an eye on weather. But yeah, this might, you can't stack every team. You can't play every game on a 13-game slate. So this might be one of those games that just kind of lurk, and I grab some one-offs. I'm probably leaning more towards the Twin side. Ober, yeah, if the price was different, maybe I'd be there a little bit more. We'll see if the Guardians throw us a curveball in their confirmed lineup. But I think we're in pretty much linear thought process on that one.
Yeah, like Ober, if he was in like even the 7s on the DK slate, 76, 78, somewhere around there, it might push enough value. I just think that 84 is just a bit of a misprice with the lack of strikeout upside. So
yeah, moving on to the next game over in Kauffman Stadium, Rockies and the Royals. I'm going to punch in some of these confirmed lineups. Rockies came out with Blackman Profar, Ryan McMahon, Elias Diaz batting cleanup. Let's go. Randall Grichuk.
Chris Bryant on the IL.
Yeah. Nolan Jones. Jesus. This this roster gets really rough really quick. Tovar in the 9-hole. All right.
Three of my favorite hitters are in that lineup are hitting 6, 7, 8. Harold Castro, Nolan Jones, Brenton Doyle. I think Jones and Doyle, 2 young players with the decent idea of power upside from the left side and from the right side for cheap prices. Those guys are both interesting to me, but I just don't like that lineup overall. But they're going up against Jordan Lyles, who's been one of the worst pitchers in baseball over his 200 and change starts for his career. So what are you doing with the Rockies here?
So I said earlier, bad hitting beats bad pitching, right? And
this certainly got bad hitting.
This is definitely going to test the limits of that. So Jordan Lyles, let's focus on his weaknesses. This season, a lot of power to righties, and that was one of the things I definitely expected. You take him out of Camden with that pushback left field wall. Although you feel like Kauffman shouldn't be giving up a ton of homers anyway, but yeah, his homer per 9 got back to where it used to be, 2+ against righties, really high against lefties. So I want to pick on him, and I'm looking at this Rockies lineup, and the highest homer grade I got is Nolan Jones at 3.7, and Brenton Doyle right behind him. So those two guys,
top 2 in mine as well.
Yeah, those 2 guys usually come with a 30+% K rate, but we can neutralize that immensely with Jordan Lyles, just a 14% K rate this season against righties. So I probably get to some shares there. Again, keep an eye on the weather. Might make this game even more wacky and get some average at best bullpens in the mix. So I think I completely avoid pitching, and I will probably just have some vomit stacks, as a boy says. Let me see what the ownership is on.
The other side of this one is a little bit more interesting to me. I've gotten to the Royals a decent amount through the year as like kind of a value play that has some home run hitting upside and through the top half of the lineup there. It's always ugly in the last three spots of the lineup, but I think they play at least 1 through 6 today. MJ Melendez, I know, hasn't produced a lot. 205, 297, 362 for the season. Somehow only a 157 ISO and 5 home runs, despite a 14% barrel rate and 55.4% hard hits. There is just more power coming from that bat at some point. But it hasn't been pretty. So, you take what you get with MJ. Eduardo Olivares in the 6th spot, I think, is somewhat interesting. Decent amount of hard hits, a little bit of speed, a little bit of mid-range power. But Prado, Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, and Sal Perez, I'm getting great home run marks for. All 4 of those guys are above my magic number in my home run model. They're all affordable at different positions. So I like that top end of the Kansas City lineup here going up against Chase Anderson, who is every bit as bad as Jordan Lyles is and every bit as targetable here. So don't get fooled by a 1.31 ERA over 3 starts for Chase Anderson here. Don't get fooled by a 1.25% home rate or a 3.2% barrel rate. You can, I think, throw bats at Chase Anderson here as well. So I think it's both sides somewhat uncomfortably on the Rockies for me in terms of bats. Definitely the top end of the Royals is my preferred spot in this one.
Yeah, looking at the run total for this game, it's about 10. So plenty of implied runs. I don't mind getting behind that, and yeah, I'll lean towards the side of the bats here. The bats, I don't know if say surprisingly or unsurprisingly, but they're not really low owned in the grand scheme of the slate. We're pushing the Royals specifically. We got 12% on Pasquantino, almost 11% on Salvi. Bobby Witt's at 8%, Nick Prado at 8%. So there's going to be some interest in them, and those aren't numbers that are going to scare me on a 13-game slate anyway. But it's not like it's a secret. So it looks like the field is kind of in agreement where, we're picking on some bad pitchers here. Ryan McMahon leads the Rockies in ownership at 10%, Blackman at 6%. And the guys that we like that have the high bomb ratings, Nolan Jones at 5%, and then Brenton Doyle at 3%. So you can still get to the Rockies and not have to give up too much leverage on your
I'll trade
portfolio.
a half a projected plate appearance for cutting ownership in half on a hitter that I like better. So definitely an interesting spot there. I do like McMahon, even though he's popular. 13.7% barrels, 48.9% hard hit from the left side. You can throw that at Jordan Lyles all day. So you can offset the popularity by including him next to those other kids, and you're off and running.
Yep. All right. Moving on. Next game here, Tigers at the White Sox. By the way, almost 120 of you guys hanging out. You know the drill, man. Hit that thumbs up. Get us some likes here. 51 likes. Appreciate those of you that have hit the like button. Be cool to push. I guess I did 100 plus likes on the first. It's always the beginning of the season. We get a ton of views, and then baseball starts to lose people. So it'd be cool to hit 100 likes on a baseball stream again in the middle of the season. I feel like. Gang. Yeah, we can get there. Put us together. It happens. If you are late to the stream, if you're looking for more Terry content, he has a ton of it for free. It shouldn't be free for long, so go take advantage of it while you can. Absorb it. Rotoscouts.com, and then also look up Rotoscouts on YouTube. Terry's been putting some shows out there as well, kind of like I do, just solo breakdown, looking at spreadsheets. So if you enjoy that type of content, man, you're in the right place. And Terry hits. I definitely think I missed more slates in terms of video coverage than you have like the last week. It's been a busy schedule. I'm not as the during the week. Sometimes we get those random all day slates or like 4-game main slates. I'm not doing a video for 4-game main slate or whatever. But
those are the days that are getting tricky for me because it's like, all right, if I'm going to write the article and do a show and the slate starts at 1 o'clock, I got to get up really damn early and start writing.
Exactly.
So it's been a little bit of a juggling act, but it's been fun. And I'm just basically, for anybody who's out there who hasn't seen it, I'm basically zeroing in on the main slates for every day, right? I'm trying to cover the main slate with the article, with the home run picks and with the power index, as well as now starting to do the shows. So typically it'll drop the show in the afternoon. The articles and everything will go up before that. But like you said, a lot of free content up there right now. So it's been fun, and going to keep on trying to hit every main slate through the rest of the season.
I'm rooting for it. It's a grind, man.
It's ambitious. Yeah.
I've been very busy outside. I've rekindled my wrestling career dramatically in the last.
I've seen that a little bit in some of your tweets and stuff.
Yeah, and so I've been working out a lot more, and then weekends I'm hitting different towns in Texas. So I can't grind as much. I wish I could, but I grind as much as possible in spots where it makes sense. So hopefully we do. We should definitely make this like a common thing where we collab on some streams.
Dude, absolutely. I'm all for it. I assume that the gang in the chat here and everybody else would be all for it. So absolutely, I think that'd be fun. And for when Gun's not around, when he's out of town wrestling and everything, hop over to my channel, guys, and I got you covered.
Exactly, or either way. All right, get caught up with chat here. Oh man, I don't know if I want to read everything here. Okay. Shout out to Austin. Hey, if you guys haven't dropped in, if I haven't shouted you out, man, drop something in the chat. What up, Lorenza? Here says the two best combination of minds in MLB DFS. I appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
I definitely think we are some nerds that actually enjoy
For sure.
wrestling. There's some really good analysts that maybe don't watch baseball a lot. Like you don't actually, in most sports, you don't actually have to watch every pitch. I feel like me and you are like nerds that actually watch a lot of baseball too. So
yeah, that's it. There's a lot of guys who talk about the DFS side of it, and while saying like, I don't even like baseball, this is so boring and blah blah. I think we both passionately actually enjoy sitting here going through all this stuff and the numbers and the minutia, and actually then watching the games. So it's a different experience, I think.
All right, let's move on to Chicago. The White Sox hosting the Tigers. I got Reese Olson on the bump for the Tigers. I got Mike Clevenger on the bump for the White Sox. I do have a confirmed White Sox. Looking at Timmy Anderson, Benintendi, Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, Joel Moncada, Andrew Vaughn, Yasmani Grandal, Gavin Sheets, and Romy Gonzalez. So as projected, I got nothing right now on Reese Olson, so I guess I have to pull up his minor league stuff. I'm assuming with this massive article, we can just go reference that. What do you know about Reese Olson that I don't, which is anything?
That he is basically a non-prospect. He's like ranked in the teens organizationally there. Was pitching. I'm trying to find it in my article. This slate is too damn big. Here it is. So yeah, he was pitching to making his major league debut. He had a 26.9% strikeout rate in AAA this year, but a 12.6% walk rate, 4.70 xFIP, and a 6.38 in 10 ERA in 10 starts in AAA. So definitely not what we're looking for. Not a highly ranked or highly regarded prospect. I don't really know much about his, like, I got to that point and was like, all right, I don't really need to do a deep dive into what his stuff looks like or how he's rated for that. So I think you can throw bats at this kid. And we talked about liking the White Sox kind of now that they're back a little bit to health with Eloy Jimenez coming back, with Joan Moncada back in the lineup there, Andrew Benintendi back after having been banged up, despite, he's been terrible this season in terms of where his hit tool and his on-base skills are supposed to be. But I think now that they're back kind of to full form, to health, we see a better version of this White Sox team. And I think that this is a good spot to deploy them against a kid who is struggling that much in AAA.
Yeah, usually when I see high minor league strikeouts with high walk rates, I always assume they're one of those pitchers that throws 100. But looking at a quick Google, it doesn't look like he is one of those pitchers. He could sit around 95, so he doesn't throw soft. But yeah, losing a plate like that, if you already have that in your pedigree, usually that doesn't transition well in your first couple of starts in the big leagues here. So White Sox, it feels weird getting to them with their 82 WRC plus against righties on the season, but like we said, with Eloy back in the mix, with Moncada back in the mix, there is more clickable names, so I'm fine with getting them against an unproven pitcher. And this is always a unique spot for me. I wonder if you feel the same. Whenever I get a pitcher with literally no data, it doesn't do, I don't have a bomb detector for it, right? I guess we can go like replacement level stuff, but I don't. So I imagine like a lot of projection systems get confused as well. So if you just look at how often a no-name pitcher comes up to the majors and just performs way poorly, maybe projection systems are sleeping on the White Sox, and the White Sox have a run total of 5.1. So 5's been about like the best of today's slate. If you're at 5, you're leading the charge so far. So a lot of stuff is pushing me in that direction. Tigers bullpen is about average, less than average in terms of overall K percentage, 93, and the K percentage plus. So, yeah, I think I would get to some White Sox here. And Clevenger, you did your thing, dog. Probably gonna be a no for me, but man, righties, the Tigers K rate, the lowest K rate I got in this projected lineup, it's like Javi Baez and Tyler Nevin. And I mean, when Javi Baez is one of your lowest K rate guys, something's crazy. So I don't know. Is Clevenger worth the punt? 6.6. Would you get to any Clevenger hoping for 15 out of an SP2?
I think I would at the SP2 price on DK. I think it's worth a couple bullets. It's not like I believe really. 4.56 ERA, a 5.61 xFIP. Like I think it's a mostly broken pitcher at this point, given all the injuries and the issues that he's had in recent years. 19% strikeout rate, 10.4% walks. But against this Tigers team that is so bad that lost Riley Green to injury, their best hitter now, and one of their good left-handed hitters. I just see enough of a path at that 6,600 price. I want no part of it at 83. I don't think he books the quality start. I don't think we get that kind of a game from him, but there's probably enough to get you that handful of points at that DK price. It's not great. It's a thin path to success, but I think you can see the path a little bit there. I wouldn't get carried away with it, but we're going up against the Tigers. They're by far the league worst team for run creation against right-handed pitching. No power to speak of. Tons and tons of strikeouts. Clevenger got the talent. I wish it was the version of Mike Clevenger from a few years ago before all the injuries and the issues, but we'll take what we get. At that price, there's just enough there that I think you get away with it.
Yeah, 90 to 100 pitches last couple starts, and he's actually gone 6 innings his last 3 flat, and including the last start against the Guardians, where 5 strikeouts, 4 walks, and still muscled out a quality start against them. So, yeah, I guess crazier things have happened. I think the price points was got me here, so I think I'll put him in the tier 3. Fanduel, I definitely need upside strong, and I don't think Clevenger's that guy for me. But SP2, 6.6K for Clevy, I think I've talked myself into it, which inversely makes me not like the Tigers too much. I will say though, focusing
just remember
on
when it goes pop, you said you talked yourself into it, not that I talked you into it.
Focusing on Clevenger's weaknesses the last 2 years. And really just historically, even when it was with the Guardians, I'll never forget, they pulled him out of the bullpen against the Yankees in the playoffs, and Greg Bird was up. I tweeted, Bird's about the homer, when he was walking out and Bird homered. It was like a thing. I was happy.
That poor Greg Bird. I was so mad for years that he didn't get his shot, as I wanted a lefty playing first base in Yankee Stadium. Basically, I was complaining about Greg Bird not being around until they signed Rizzo.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. It's like he was born to be a Yankee. Yeah. But Clevenger's weakness forever is home run power to lefties. Aggregate 2+ home run per 9 last 2 years against lefties. This year 208. Just a 13% K rate. Not a lot of power in this Tigers lineup, but just looking at chip in a chair, Zach McKinstry, Akil Baddoo, and Nick Maton. Maton has almost a 200 ISO, so I think he's like your best glimmer of hope, and he's almost free on both sides. So I guess if we had to create the how does Clevenger fail, looking at the stats, I think one of those 3 guys gets lucky. But that's all I got. I think I'm leaning more towards pitching.
I agree. I think it's more toward that cheap pitching shares of Clevenger with tempered expectations and low shares. Don't get carried away with it. But yeah, I don't see really any reason to go to Tigers. Maybe a couple shares with the lefties included. You wrap a couple of those lefties around a really low end Spencer Torkelson, and you hope that his 9.8% barrels and 49.7% hard hits comes through for you. It's not been pretty for Torkelson. It's not pretty for Javi Baez. McKinstry, Baddoo, Maton, and then a prayer. That's about it.
Yep. Next game on the docket, D-backs hosting the Braves. We're starting to push our way to the West Coast, and there's a lot of really good West Coast games tonight. A lot of good teams over there. Don't have lineups for either one of these teams yet. D-backs throwing Merrill Kelly, and the Braves throwing Uncle Charlie Morton. I love how Google Chrome remembers like sites that you visit a lot. If I type just CH, that's it. It recommends Chase Field Roof. I Google that so often that it happens. Today's June 2nd, so the roof is projected to be open or scheduled to be open, projected, whatever. So keep that in mind as we deal with Chase Field. Kind of like Globe Life, where when the roof is closed, plays extremely favorable for pitchers. When the roof is open, particularly out there in Arizona, where it's 90 to 100 degrees on any given day, it's a little boost for bats here. And the Braves never need boost offensively, so if they're going to get one like that, I'm interested. The Braves have a 4.7 run total. D-backs 4.5. Both pitchers been pretty solid for run prevention, more so Kelly than Morton this season. Morton's pitching to a 4.6 expected ERA, 1.5 on the whip. Generally keeping the ball in the park. It does let him fly a little bit more against lefties, 1.3 homer per 9 overall this season against lefties, but the ground ball rate's there, so you expect maybe that to not hold up. But hey, last year he had problems with lefties as well, although lefty ground ball rate last year for Morton was just 36%, so it kind of doesn't make sense for your ground ball rate to go up that dramatically. Oh, I guess his hard contact rate went up 10% as well, so I guess that's what's going on with Morton. When I look at D-backs, especially picking on that lefty split, instant click Corbin Carroll. Little bit of a controversy, was it yesterday? Corbin Carroll had that walk-off. It was scored a double, but PrizePicks. It was like a DFS or player prop controversy where it's a walk-off, right? So if you don't make that effort to go to second base, they're not going to score it a double. So there was some scoring gray area where, was it a double, was it not, because the runner scored before he touched second base. So I saw on Twitter some people got scored under 1.5 total bases for Carroll. And then when they officially scored it a double, but it was adjusted 30 minutes after the fact, and apparently that's their policy. So yeah, that's a rough beat, but
yeah, that's tough.
But I do like the top of these D-backs: Pavin Smith, Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, Christian Walker's still a bat I'll get to. So it's one of those I could see all four corners path to success, especially at their price. Charlie Morton under 8K still has some strikeout potential, and particularly against lefties, even though he is allowing some power and some walks, still rock at a 28% K rate. So I can see all sides. I think I might float offenses a little bit more aggressively, but even Merrill Kelly's jumped from a 22% K rate last year to 27% this year. ERA is outperforming some of the expected metrics, but even the expected metrics aren't bad. 3.6 expected ERA, sub 4 Sierra. So if offensive struggle, I'm not surprised. If offenses thrive, I'm not surprised. So I think I'm on all four sides. Are you playing it similarly, and how would you rank it?
Yeah, I think I would be approaching it the same way. I am interested in both pitchers. Kelly, like you said, has been really nice. Taking his strikeout rate up by like 5 percentage points year over year is an accomplishment. He's pitching really, really well. He's added 2 and change points to his swinging strike rate, brought his CSW percentage up. He's cut power a little bit in terms of the premium contact that he's allowing. So just pitching really well. Charlie Morton, we know what we're getting, right? He's a veteran. He's been this version of Charlie Morton for quite a while at this point, and I think he's okay enough, particularly at the DK price, 7,800. That's a bit under for a pitcher who's, as talented as Charlie Morton is. The issue that you're getting with this game, I think, in terms of the pitching, is that the roof's going to be open. You can see it in the run total. The Braves pushing around a 5 run total. The Diamondbacks in and around like 4.6 or something like that. So a little bit inflated run totals for these two pitchers going in this one, and I think it's mostly because of that roof. So I would probably lean a little bit more offense, but I think it is worth taking out shares on all 4 corners of this one. I like both of these offenses. I've been going to the Braves for years at this point, and never really regretted it. There's 6 hitters in that projected lineup with double-digit home runs on the season. Don't sleep on Ozzie Albies hitting 7th, probably 4,700, 3,100. He's a star at second base who never gets enough love. I like Orlando Arcia in the bottom of that lineup, 3,800. I especially like him at 2,900 on the Fanduel slate, where he's got 3 position eligibility. Underrated, not a star by any means, but a guy who's got a decent enough hit tool, can hit for power from time to time, gets on base, gets correlated scoring involved. I think he's an interesting enough wraparound play who doesn't get enough love for his multi-position eligibility. So I like this Braves lineup a lot, top to bottom. And then at least the top 5 hitters in the D-backs lineup, take or leave Josh Rojas. You get the lefty upside with him in the matchup here for cheap prices. So you can take or leave Rojas as a mix and match piece. Gabriel Moreno is a decent enough catcher where you need catchers at 3K. Young kid came over in the with Lourdes Gurriel in the trade that they definitely won so far with the Blue Jays. I was talking about that yesterday on my channel where they traded these two guys for an underperforming Dalton Varsho, and the Diamondbacks have not looked back. Lourdes Gurriel, 309, 357, 546, already 9 homers this season after only hitting 5 homers last year, a 142 WRC plus. He's come roaring back to life. So Pavin Smith, Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, Christian Walker, Lourdes Gurriel, and then some mix and match pieces from the bottom of the lineup. I can take Diamondbacks all day here. So yeah, firm all 4 sides for me. Ranking it is really tricky. I think I could honestly say that I like all 4 sides about the same, but since I'm leaning more toward hitting, let me say I'll go Braves, then Diamondbacks, then Charlie, then Kelly. I think it would be how I would rank it.
That looks
really
close. So on ownership, we got Morton at 10%, Merrill Kelly at 3%, and then hitter-wise, Acuna leads the game at 11%. All of the Braves are higher owned than the D-backs. We got basically from 6 to 11%. So D-backs aren't really grabbing any ownership. But yeah, it looks like the field is kind of agrees. There's not really getting to like a 20% of any which side. So yeah, I think we're on the same slate. The 3% of Merrill Kelly with his newfound strikeout stuff is interesting to me because the Braves can still...
that's a DraftKings number at 8,700.
Yeah,
that's definitely interesting. There's also, around the premium bats in that Braves lineup, outside of Ronnie Acuna, obviously 13.4%. You get Olsen, 30% strikeout rate, Riley, 26 and change, Marcelo Zuna at 24, Eddie Rosario at 25.7, Michael Harris, with all his struggles, striking out about 24% of the time. So definitely some strikeouts available for Kelly, who is finding more this year. I like him at price at that ownership, actually. That would vault him up, I think, in those rankings for me, given that he's so low owned at that 8,700 on DK. That's a nice little piece of value there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. All right, we don't have lineups for this one. I expect these last couple games not to. We're getting a few lineups for earlier games. I'll tighten that up in a bit. I do want to... Oh, we got to do a plug. So, chat, if you're out there lurking, first of all, hit that thumbs up. But secondly, if you guys want access to my spreadsheet with the bomb detector, I also fill out my player pool, my tiers, thoughts, strategy, my personal stack percentage, ownership, stuff like that. If you guys want to just compare yours to mine or anything like that, just expedite your daily research process with this spreadsheet. It is behind the paywall at rundfs.com. Every membership we have at rundfs.com comes with a Fantasy Cruncher voucher, so you can apply. For instance, if you get the month pass, you get $20 credit towards Fantasy Cruncher, and if you get the rest of the year pass, you get a $100 Fantasy Cruncher voucher. So if you are looking to manage the portfolio lineups, you got that going for you as well. And then you get access to the premium Discord. Many other premium Discords have a ton of people. Mine, maybe like 50 plus. So it's a lot more hands-on. Like, you tag me, I'm gonna be there talking to you. And then the hour or two before lock, I'm in the voice chat shooting the breeze with the homies, making some lineups and stuff like that. So if you guys want to add all that to your research process, your daily repertoire, or just join a community, it's a little bit tighter, go do that. Go to rundfs.com, get that set up. And then, as a reminder, those of you that have been new to the stream, haven't been here, you also get some free stuff. I hate having to plug my stuff and the prices and be like, oh yeah, you also get this genius for free.
Yeah, but you're putting numbers behind your stuff, right? Your data is something that somebody can take and put into Fantasy Cruncher. Mine's more abstract, right? I'm providing some overviews, some thoughts for free, but you're putting numbers on your stuff. So there's value there, man. That's something people should be paying for. If I wasn't using my own, I'd be paying for yours.
Yeah, I need you to hurry up and put a paywall up so it's not looking like you're killing the rest of the market, bro. You're undercutting. But go check rotoscouts.com. And then also, I need you guys to go to YouTube. It's Rotoscouts on YouTube. Let me pull that channel up. I'll put it on the main as well. Or if you type some in the chat, you can click his name as well. We got you to like 60 subs the other day. My goal is to get you to 100 soon. So let me see if we got 100 people already. We've already got you to 72. Or you, I'd say we. You're at 72 now. Let me see if we can get you.
Big chunk of that is thanks to you, pal. So that's you can definitely say we.
Yeah. So at 72, we'll copy and paste this, and I'm gonna give you a crash course in how to run a YouTube channel, because there's definitely some areas of opportunity that.
Oh, that I know for sure.
Yeah.
How to properly promote things, how to run a YouTube channel, how not to do everything in the ugliest possible fashion. Yeah, I need help with all of that. I know it.
All right, so 72 is the number now. I just put a link in chat. 100 plus viewers. Chat, go there, click the sub button. Was I not sub? Wait a minute.
73 now.
Yeah, 73 now. I swear I subbed. Maybe I have like so many YouTube channels that I might have subbed on one of my other ones.
One of the other ones, yeah. I've done that a couple times where I've jumped over and been hanging out watching the stochastic shows, but using my Roto Scouts one. I type something in the chat and I say, oh shit, I don't want to use that, so I switched back to T McB.
Exactly. I got like Fortnite channels and now it's crazy. Anyway. Some plugs out the way. We got a couple of games to wrap up. Show's running a little bit longer. It wasn't planned, but I think it's fine. So if you guys are heading out to check out some other stuff, that's cool. But if not, hang around. We're going to wrap up these last 3 games, and then I'll tighten up the confirmed lineups. And if you guys got questions, comments, concerns, throw them in chat. All that good stuff. Cubs at the Padres. Jameson Taillon, former Yankee great, taking on Michael Wacha. And this game is bringing us a 3.8 run total for the Cubs and a 4.9 run total for the Padres. Padres minus 168. So Michael Wacha in the year 2023 is holding a team to a 3.8 run total. And also, last time I checked, was actually carrying a little bit of ownership. Let me see if that's still holding up. Wacha, not so much anymore, 15%. So reasonable. Cubs on the season, 99 WRC plus against righties. Padres 92 WRC plus. There's a statement. Cubs better WRC plus than the Padres. Woo! Oh,
it's so ugly for San Diego so far.
Yeah, there's a lot of underperforming. San Diego.
That's really been the theme. Like, if I had to put one theme on the entire season as a whole, it would be dramatic underperformance from a lot of guys that I totally believed in, right? I mean, there's been so much underperformance around the league between some of the premium starting pitching, some of these really high-end teams that have just been dramatically bad. It's been a surprising year in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Blue Jays, Padres, Mariners, Astros, kind of.
Yeah, Astros for sure,
yeah. So Taillon on the bump, 5.61 expected ERA. Probably not gonna be a guy that I have interest in. Almost a 12% barrel rate. When he was with the Yanks, man, one thing I can get away from, or I could push on Taillon, I was like, hey, throw strikes. Could probably get a ground ball when he needs it. Hasn't been that guy. Just a 38% ground ball rate to righties this year. 22% to lefties. Lefties are tearing him up. 351 average allowed to lefties. 6.5 xFIP. 29% line drive rate, and he's sustained a 20+% line drive rate the last 3 years against lefties. 15% walk rate. I mean, that's good news if you're Jake Cronenworth, Juan Soto, Rugi Odor, Matt Carpenter if he makes the lineup today, even Trent Grisham. So it's a tough spot for him. Certainly easy to click some Padres names, and then inversely Michael Wacha, 4.12 expected ERA, playing a little bit better with a 3.45 actual ERA, 21% K rate, 11% swing and strike rate, essentially 16% called strike rate, elevated barrel rate. I mean, Walker's never a guy that instills a ton of comfort. He's not a guy that click a lot, but if you're going to strike out 1 in 5 against a Cubs lineup that you will usually throw out a bunch of high K rate guys, the projected lineup, Nico Horner, Mike Tauchman, and Young Gomes, sub 20%, but everyone else is pretty elevated. So I understand the case of 7,400. Earlier when I saw a different number on his ownership, I was like, all right, I'm probably staying away from that. But at 15%, I could probably throw him an aspect 2 here and there and see what happens. Again, maybe a slight 4 corners as well. But I think I lean more so Padres offense 1 and then Wacha Cubs coin flip. And I don't touch Taillon. It's not a 4 corners. What are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, I think I'm mostly with you. At 54, do I throw, like, if I'm rostering a handful of shares of Wacha, do I not want to maybe throw a dart or two with Taillon for 2,000 less and buy myself a couple bats there? Is there that big a gap between these two pitchers and these two matchups? I don't know that there is. 21.8% strikeout. It's not pretty for Tyon. I mean, we're certainly not expecting it to succeed if we do that, but you're getting him for like the price of an a slightly above average hitter on the DK slate. There's value in that if you get the handful of fantasy points. I'm glad I'm not playing on DK, so I don't have to worry about that. I want no part of them on Fanduel at 65. I definitely think the Waka side of that equation is definitely the stronger one. I did just want to throw out there that they don't project all that differently for me at that price difference. But yeah, I would agree with your overall take, your overall ranking. Waka is 7,400. I'm surprised he's not a little bit more owned. That's, you said it came down from earlier. I would be surprised if it doesn't land at whatever the higher number from earlier was. I think he's gains a little bit more popularity at that price with the perception of the Cubs, maybe not as a very good team here. I think the Cubs are better than they've performed overall. I think there's some interesting bats here for DFS. So I'll probably take out some shares against Waka here. But Waka is one of the guys for me that every time I feel like I ever roster hitters against him, because they typically do look at least decent, if not good, he is frustrating to roster hitters against. He just always seems to have a good enough game to shut the team down, and that shows through in like 3.45 ERA is not spectacular, but it's good enough. A 4.53 xFIP, same thing. 21 and change, like you said, 1 in 5 strikeouts. It's not great, but it's serviceable enough that he tends to keep hitting down. Only a 31.3% hard hit rate allowed this season, 87.3 miles an hour average exit velo, and those are sustained numbers through last year too. So he's good at limiting hard hits, good at keeping a lineup somewhat in check. So frustrating guy to go against, but yeah, probably 3 out of 4 for me as well with Waka Padres Cubbies.
All right, moving on. Next game. Going with the burner YouTube accounts. It's not burners. I just have, like I said earlier, like I mentioned, I own a bunch of domains. Some of them I don't even use. Same with YouTube channels. Whenever I get these random ideas for like what could be a good YouTube channel, I go and make it. And right now, I probably could log into 18 to 25 YouTube accounts. Some of them I don't use. Some of them I do. I do have some YouTube channels out there that have been pretty successful without my voice or face, but yeah. Okay. So it just depends on what Gmail account I'm logged into at the time. So that's what that was about. But it's usually this one. I don't understand. Anyway, Yankees at the Dodgers World Series preview tonight. Yankees activating Stanton and Donaldson. They're back in the mix. Luis Severino also back in his second or third start up against Clayton Kershaw. So I mean, I'm hoping that this has like playoff atmosphere vibes, and I'm sure Dodger Stadium is going to be standing room only at some point. But I just hope the Yankees show up, because sometimes they don't. But that last series, the last time I can remember them in LA is when they had those black jerseys, and most people hated those jerseys, but I kind of liked them. And I think it was Hyun Ryu. I remember that one. I think Didi hit a grand slam off of Hyun Ryu. Oh yeah, good times. So
me and my goldfish memory. The black jerseys rang a bell, but the rest of that, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure I watched the game, but yeah, lost the time in the fog of my memories. But how interested are you in Luis Severino at 7,100 in this game?
Yeah, that's such a small price point for a guy that historically we expect to bring the strikeout rates, but it is the LA Dodgers, 116 WRC plus. They gave Sevy some softer matchups, and one of the things about those matchups that was funny is listening to interviews and stuff. Sevy hated having to get up early to pitch, especially that Cincy game. But they made him do that in the AAA start to get ready for that. So maybe he'll be happier that he's pitching at a later time. Worked up to 82 pitches against San Diego, 5K, 6.2 innings. So you probably expect Sevy eventually to be at least a strikeout per inning. But I'm encouraged by the 1.59 ERA. The expected ERA from is 2.32. I can live with that. The Sierra 4.51. Not what you want, and he has continued where he left off last year, where he had some problems with lefties. Last year, a 4+ xFIP to lefties, sub 20% K rate. I'm not going to harp on his lefty splits this year, but so far, elevated xFIP, low K rate. So that's where I'm concerned, and that's where guys like Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, and even in the year 2023, Jason Hayward, surprising people. So that's where I'm worried about him getting some outs. But the price is right, and maybe it's maybe it's the bias, maybe the heart wants what the heart wants. Sevy's like my favorite pitcher, but this is, I mean, if this game doesn't wake up Sevy, competitive spirit, and he has one of the most emotional competitive spirits in all of baseball, we just haven't seen him in a while. I'm hoping he comes out fully determined. So I'm gonna get to him. Looking at what the field's doing, I will say this before we harp too much on Sevy. Kershaw is projected to be the highest pitcher on today's slate. So that's interesting
That feels
because
weird.
yeah, usually there's some sticker shock against the Yankees. Severino inversely is just 1% owned. I'm gonna get in trouble.
At 7,100?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, maybe you get the idea of like a somewhat limited pitch count still in like the 90s and a quick hook from Boone if he gets a couple guys on base in like the 5th inning or whatever. But this pitcher at that price, there's definitely upside. I was going to bring up the ability of the Dodgers to limit strikeouts. First 3 hitters on the lineup, 17.5% strikeouts, 15.6, 8.9% strikeout rate for Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith. But if he's that low owned at that price, I almost don't care. I think that's, again, I'm glad I'm not playing on DK. He's 89 on the FanDuel slate, which is a price that won't get me into too much trouble, but I'll definitely have some shares of him if he's that equally low owned on the FanDuel slate. I question his ability to book that quality start for me, but on the idea of strikeout upside, if a couple of the other top end options go pop, there's probably enough value there with an $1,100 difference between him and the $10,000 tier that there's enough on the bone. It's probably thinner, or it's definitely thinner on the FanDuel slate, and it's not great. But at that DK ownership and that price, that seems like a really sweet spot to me.
Yeah, I share your concerns about length in this game, especially a guy like Sevy who's been, injury prone guy. They had an off day yesterday. Generally, a pretty much a reset for the bullpen. Michael King threw 36 pitches on Tuesday, and on the last game, Clay Holmes went 19, Wandy Peralta 22, but those guys didn't pitch the 2 games prior. So you got to imagine everyone's available with potentially Michael King staying away. But if Sevy got in early trouble, King is one of those guys that could be a long reliever. So I would say everyone's available, and if he has a fully reset bullpen and you get in trouble against the Dodgers, I think Booney might go out there and grab him. When on a site like FanDuel, when I'm that invested in the quality star points, certainly would be way more hesitant. But 7,100 on DK at 1%, I will probably be there.
That's dirt worthy for sure.
And then on the other side, Clayton Kershaw, highest owned pitcher on the slate, 26% ownership, barely above Framber Valdez right now, barely above, and Castillo jumped up, by the way, to 26%. So let's just say Kershaw, Valdez, and Castillo are all 26% owned, and I get it. Yankees definitely strike out, but remember, Yankees just got Stanton and Donaldson back, and if Donaldson doesn't do anything, historically he hits lefties well. Last 2 years, 200 plus ISO against lefties. Stanton, 188 ISO against lefties last 2 years. Not high averages. Definitely can strike out with the best of them, but those are big time bats. And in this projected lineup, we look at Glaber, Rizzo, and we want to see if Rizzo's in the lineup. They're doing some secret squirrel stuff with that. What do you get hurt on Sunday? Like, he'll be good to go Monday. He hasn't been in the lineup since, and the Yankees like to lie to us. So we'll see. Rizzo's not a guarantee to be in the lineup, and this is another free excuse. Oh, it's a lefty. We didn't want him against a lefty, which is garbage.
Right, yeah, we give him one more day, and don't want to bring him back against Kershaw here. I could see that would make total sense. I would love to see this lineup actually rolled out in like it's reasonably full form here. So we'll see what we get. But I got to at least take some shots with the top end of the lineup, assuming we get Rizzo, that 1 through 5, 1 through 6. Maybe we get DJ LeMahieu focusing on contact and his hit tool rather than trying to drive the ball as much. He's had a weird year. I don't know if you noticed, he's basically doubled his strikeout rate while taking his hard hit from 40.6 to 48.2, but not really turned it into many more home runs or any kind of ISO or anything. It's just striking out at double the rate and not really producing anything for it. So I'm hoping he goes back to his other approach where he was striking out a lot less and was a hit tool oriented guy. It's a weak bottom end with IKF, Volpe, and Jose Trevino down there in the projected. If you get Higgy, I prefer Higgy as in terms of a hitter, but I prefer Trevino in terms of the defense and the pitch calling and pitch framing and everything. So I think Trevino benefits Severino a little bit, but I think Higgy if you want to go to bats in the Yankees lineup. But the Torres, Judge, Rizzo, and certainly Giancarlo Stanton, maybe a couple shares of Josh Donaldson up there if you're going to Yankees. I at least want to have a few shares of that, and I don't expect they'd be that highly owned against that much Kershaw ownership, right?
Yeah, it can't be. I don't ever do this, but I am curious about Stanton versus Kershaw. 2 homers. All right. Rizzo has 3 and betting 323. So if they managers still operate off of BVP. So if they don't start Rizzo and they say we don't want him to play against the lefty, they're lying, and Rizzo should be on the IL. And next year he's gonna be backdated. Let me go look at Yankees ownerships. That irks me. You ever watch a broadcast and they bring in a reliever and then they sub a guy out who's he's 2 for 4 against him, so that's why the
I know.
I was like, what? No, there's no way. That's your reasoning.
Yeah, he struck out 3 times in 5 lifetime plate appearances against this guy. Oh, wow, 4 of which came 3 years ago when he was a rookie. It's like, all right, cool. That's
right.
Clearly really relevant.
Here we go. Are you sitting down? This is our Yankees ownership. Aaron Judge leads the Yankees at 2%.
Wow.
Cali boy, by the way. We put some narratives on it. F it. Volpe second at 1%. And then everyone else untouched against the highest owned pitcher on the slate in this Yankees offense. I'm in on it. Now, with that said, don't get me wrong. I don't think Kershaw.
We'll do this and we'll make the recommendation. Right? We'll cover up our Yankee logos. No homerism here. Just on the idea of that low ownership for this collection of hitters. Yeah, they're going up against Clay Kershaw, so that's why they're that low owned, right? It's just positionally a good spot to occupy with a handful of shares. It's not something you want to get carried away with, but that seems like a good opportunity for DFS to me.
Yeah, and again, I know maybe we're focused a little too much on Yankees off the rip, burying the lead. Kershaw's been great. 3.38 expected ERA, 30% K rate, 15% swing and strike rate. It makes I understand why he's that high owned. But
I would easily both sides that. I mean, Kershaw's projected as one of my top pitchers on the day. I think there's plenty of strikeouts for him here. I don't think we need to sell Clayton Kershaw to anybody really, but I think that does create an opportunity. And Kershaw, by the way, underpriced at 9,000 on the DK slate. 10-3 arguably is underpriced on the Fanduel slate too.
Yeah, completely agree. And then 4 corners this one. I guess I would agree with the field. I guess Kershaw probably at the top. Dodgers 2, Yankees 3, Sevy 4. But I guess if we put DK in context, but that's probably how I would shake it out.
I agree with that.
All right, hopefully we have some fun baseball, and then we have one game left on the entire slate: Orioles and the Giants over in Oracle. We've got Dean Creamer on the bump for the Orioles, Logan Webb on the bump for the Giants. Logan Webb this season 3.19 expected ERA, 27% overall K rate. The Orioles 103 WRC plus against righties this season. They've been better against lefties. This lineup, the projected lineup, comes out pretty lefty heavy. But Logan Webb just fine against lefties. 292 xFIP, 24% K rate, and just a 3% walk rate. This man throws strikes. So I'm interested in Webb. And now with that said, we talked about all these pitchers. I don't remember ever reading Logan Webb's name. So let me see what kind of ownership he's getting in Oracle. Logan Webb.
That's the thing. It's a deep pitching slate, and especially on FanDuel, Webb costs 11-1 on the FanDuel slate. I expect he's going to be almost entirely unowned over there with all the options and with the perception of like the Orioles good enough team to come in here against him. So I wouldn't expect any ownership on FanDuel. I'm curious where he falls on DK because of the 97. I think that's a nice buy on DK. What I really like about Webb, in addition to the 27% strikeouts that he's up to this year, which matches where he was 2 years ago, he was down to 20.7 last year. So he's taken his strikeouts back up. But what I really like about him is just a sustained ability, kind of like what we talked about with Fromber, not as exaggerated, but a very good ability to keep the ball down. 2.7 degree average launch angle this year. He's given up a couple happenstance home runs, so 2.83% home run rate, which is still fairly good. Last year, 5.5% barrels, 3.1 degree average launch angle, 1.40% home run rate in 32 starts, 192 in the third innings, and similar 1.51% home run rate, negative 0.5 degree average launch angle in 26 starts the year before. So I think there's good upside here for Logan Webb to at least cap the run creation marks for the Orioles. And if he finds a few strikeouts along the way, he could have a nice little start here at that 97 for DK. I think he's a question mark at the FanDuel price, but if you're taking a guy on the idea of clean innings, the ability to get to a win and a quality start here, I think Logan Webb's at least, he's not off the board by any means for me on FanDuel.
Yeah, 14% on DraftKings. That's SP7,
Okay.
kind of right there with Glass now. And on Fanduel, he is at 4%, which is SP8 in ownership. And that's actually behind guys like Michael Waka, Charlie Morton. So a couple names that maybe I would put him above.
Yeah, see, I'd rather pay a little bit of a tax to be able to get to Webb instead of those options. The question becomes, though, do you want to pay that tax to get to Webb instead of those options while also forgoing a less expensive Zach Wheeler, a less expensive Shohei Ohtani, a less expensive Luis Castillo? That's where you're running to issues with Webb at that price.
That's why I like FanDuel. I think me and you play way more FanDuel, even though like when I cover these slates, it's a lot more DraftKings centric. But I don't know. Some slates I like playing two pitchers. Like tonight, I can have fun with it. And at some slates, man, I don't want to get to another pitcher that much. But these deeper slates, you can get a little creative with your SP2. So tonight, I'll like both. But yeah, generally, when you just play one pitcher, it's crazy how dramatic your process changes. Where I just sell out for that quality start and give me a ceiling. And if you just focus on the ability to go 6 innings, period, you start dwindling out some guys real fast where value is not really a thing. You just really want raw points out of the position. And I still feel that way on DraftKings as well. Like I think on this slate, you're going to need double barrel 25 plus DraftKings points out of your pitcher spots to truly thrive at the end of the night. But there's some slates where you can live with the SP2 16 and be optimal. And I don't know where this slate falls. I feel like there's enough talent where you're looking for double barrel upside. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think we've got like 10, 12 talented to very good starters out of the 26. If you're talking about half the dog's choking on something under the, I guess he disagrees. You're right there, pal. I don't know what that was. Good boy. Anyway, so yeah, when you're talking about like 10, 12 high-end pitchers out of 26, I think it's just one. I totally agree with you. It's one of those slates where you're going to need to book two good quality pitching performances there, versus over on FanDuel where you only need to get it right once. So I definitely think it's looking like that kind of slate, but it's also going to be a slate where you're going to have to absolutely nail the offense because I think we're going to have a couple of these games really go off. So you're going to need to really drill your lineup construction today.
Yeah, I agree completely. All right, chat, that's our slate. So to wrap up, throw any questions, comments, concerns that you have in chat. I'll run back. I'll tighten up some of these lineups, and then I'll get into the VIP Discord. I did see Travis says, I need Terry's top pitcher. So what do you got as your top guy?
Top projected guy actually was a guy that I think I liked a little bit better than you did. My top raw projection, Zach Wheeler, up against that Washington Nationals lineup. Nice little cushion between him and it's like a big group of Glasnow, Verlander, Logan Webb, Shohei Ohtani, Clay Kershaw, Framber Valdez, Luis Castillo. All those guys are like right next to each other, a couple points below Wheeler. So I like the spot for Wheels today. We'll see. And if I'm making a home run pick, it's up on the site. It was Sal Perez.
So Zach Wheeler, his OU in terms of outs is 18.5. So that gets you through 6. And this for PrizePicks. His strikeout prop is 5.5.
Interesting.
Yeah, really low. So yeah, if you like him that much, I might take a dabble of that. Let me peruse through some of these confirmed lineups. We did get Blue Jays, so Blue Jays is going to be Springer, Bichette, Vladdy, Belt, Chappie, Merrifield, Varsho, Kirk, Kevin Kiermaier, completely as projected. That's good news. Rays lineup came out. Yandy Diaz, Franco, Brandon Lau batting third, Randy Arozarena.
Jose Siri hitting 6th for the Rays. It's kind of interesting. You can configure that lineup in any order though. I mean, they've just been so consistent and like some of the guys overperforming for the season and well over their heads, but still playing well like every time they end up in the lineup, no matter where they're hitting. So that team is deep.
The Siri, I want to say, was the Siri just hit a grand slam the other day? I feel like I saw that pop up.
He did he had a big day the other day. I forget whether it was a grand slam or not, but he had a big day just the other day.
Yeah. Mariners looking as projected, except Colton Wong is Jose Caballero.
Okay. And Mike Ford hitting 8th.
Yeah, Mikey Ford. Angels lineup.
Mike Ford, Mike Tauchman. The year 2023, both Mike Ford and Mike Tauchman still in the majors.
Yeah.
Not exactly expected to be talking about those guys this year. Any changes in the weather before we punch out? Now that we're 2 hours after later into the day.
Yeah, I'll throw a refresh on that, and then we're still getting a few more lineups. The Twins lineup came out. There is no Buxton, no Correa.
Okay. So that's a ding to the Twins, yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't look like
Kepler is in. Kepler's in hitting fifth, but yeah, definite downgrade to the Twins. Not that it leads us to any additional shares of Savali, I don't think, but downgrade for them. Oh, weird Diamondbacks lineup. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm punching that in now.
Perdomo leadoff, Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, Christian Walker, Lourdes Gurriel. I guess you still get most of the quality, just Perdomo leadoff. So no Pavin Smith.
All right, punching in this Twins lineup. Gallo dropping all the way to 7th without Correa and Buxton. I feel like you would want him to have way more at bats just for the chip in a chair home run. Then put him in the 7th spot. I don't know.
Well, I mean, when you can take Donovan Solano and his 4.3% barrel rate and stick it into the cleanup spot instead of Joey Gallo, why wouldn't you? Dude's got a .082 ISO on the year and 0 home runs and 137 plate appearances. Sounds like a cleanup hitter to me.
Yeah, and it's not like I get it. It's Savali's 12% K rate to lefties. They're scared
that's
of
really
that.
intimidating. That's it.
That doesn't make sense. How do you believe in a guy so much to lead him off, and then when your big bats aren't in, you put him 7th? What are we doing
It's
here?
mind-boggling that they would do that. For DK purposes, if you're going to Twins, at the dead minimum, Solano hitting cleanup, I guess, is a usable part. But yeah, that is a weird configuration of that lineup.
Yeah, definitely not what I would have done. All right, let's see what the magic number is on the Roto Scouts YouTube sub count. Got to after a refresh, we're up to 78, so pushing 80. So hopefully, maybe after the weekend, we'll be at 100 over there.
And we'll get there.
That is it. That's our full.
The Twitter
Friday
handle's the
post.
same, guys. Roto Scouts is the Twitter handle for what I do there. Mine's at DigitalB21. That's at Roto Scouts. Follow either one. I tweet out all the stuff and then I retweet it back and forth. So you'll get my links either way. But yeah, get over there and subscribe to the channel and we need 26 more thumbs up here at the end of the show to crack that 100 mark.
Yeah, a lot of right now it's just the real ones hanging out. A lot of people drifted off into some of the other airways. There's a lot of baseball shows 2 hours before lock. We try to stay away from them, but there's a lot. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, it's been fun. Hopefully we do this again. We'll talk off air, but we'll make this more regular. Because I think a lot of people like when me and you get together and talk nerdy stuff. Sure. If we would have started on time, we would have probably cleaned up on time. So next week, I think we got it all figured out.
Yeah, now that I know to unmute my tab on my browser.
But all right, chat. I'm gonna be over in the VIP Discord voice chat here in a little bit. If you guys go join me, rundfs.com. Make sure you're at rotoscouts.com. Subbed on Twitter, on YouTube. Free info. You're not going to find that level analysis for that price literally anywhere. That's not hyperbole. That's ridiculous, the value you're getting from a free article over there. So go check that out. And then, Terry, I appreciate it, man. We're going to roll this stream out of here. All right, chat.